Welcome to the Kyojitsu integration seminar from the Zeropoint Budo. Chicken Alex back home. Chicken Alex back home. Okay, welcome. So, everyone out there, what we're going to be looking at is we're talking about this concept of Kyojitsu. What is Kyojitsu? Kyojitsu is Kyo is falsehood or lies, and Jitsu is truth. And you have the expression is Kyojitsu Tenkan Ho, which is how the lie becomes the truth, becomes the lie, the intermixing and rotation into the next thing. So one good way to think about it is propaganda. Now, what makes good propaganda is you have to have some truth in there. You have to have some truth in the propaganda. So that people go like, oh, but wait a minute, this is true. And I verified it and it's true. And then the next thing could be a lie. And then they're like, well, but the last thing was true. And then sometimes you purposely tell a lie, knowing that they're going to catch you lying. They're like, well, he lied. And then so easy to get to. And now they're in this kind of fog. So Hatsumi talks about this Yugen no Seikai, like this dream world where things are not real. And this is what we want to do. We want to be able to put the other person into a state where they can't trust their own senses. And then we can reach in and kind of take control and move them in the way that we want to. So you can think of this as like a social media algorithm to control what you believe to be true. But we're just doing it with where we position ourselves and how we interact with our opponents, okay? So the integrating Kyojitsu concept means that you have to be able to sell the idea that you're going to be doing something, whatever the something is. And you have to be able to not do it. You have to look like you're doing it, completely sell it, but actually not do it. And then you have to look like you're not going to do it, but be able to do it. And this is the core of what we're doing. So we started with this footwork from module 1, right? This moving in. You notice everything has this forward tilt. Well, one of the main reasons for the forward tilt is because if someone is facing me this way, when they see this position, am I going forward or backwards? I don't know. So depending on who you are and your physical condition, you may just be slightly forward tilted. So like Hatsumi Sensei, in his last decade of teaching, everything was him being here and then 1 foot length forward tilt. And when you looked at older videos, like if you go back to Hatsumi Sensei's Mutodori videos, where he's teaching exactly what Mutodori is, he'll have like Noguchi Sensei standing there with the sword, and so could be back like this, and he's like, first thing is this distance, and he would step in and he'd have this distinctive forward tilt where he's leaning in. He says, you put your head where it's an easy target to cut, but you leave your feet back where you can't get cut. It's like, this is the first thing. So he'd come back out of it, and then he would come in and tilt, and he'd have this forward lean. This is on his video, so you can always research this on your own and look at the videos, right? It's like, and then of course you need guts, because from here, you can't be flinching away. You have to be able to just drop in and take the guy. So you watch the video. It's important, but this is the thing. So now Soke went from like, much more like a double foot length into a single foot length tilt. And he would do that a lot. So like the feet on his here, just like do a punch position, right? So Soke would often be, you come in like this, and you can see there's this forward tilt, but not dramatic. We want to practice dramatic so that we increase our range, our capability. We want to practice dramatic. That's why in module 1, 2, and 3, we were doing 1 foot length, 2 foot lengths, 3 foot lengths. So this is pretty dramatic right here. Now, when you get past 3 foot lengths, you're not going to be able to get back out of that position. So past that, 4 foot lengths, which you'll often see Bujinkan people doing stuff like this, right? So I can do this too, but you're frozen in that position. You got that one shot, and you better hope it was 1 shot, 1 kill, because if you miss or they're still alive, they're going to crush you after that. So when we go beyond the 3 foot lengths, we actually want to take our back feet with us so that we maintain dynamic position, so we can continue to shift, all right? So how do we embed this Kyojitsu in is from this basic first thing. So what we're going to start with is a little bit of Mutodori practice. Now, those of you that have followed some Zeropoint Budo training, we have these 5 levels of Mutodori practice. We're going to go right to level 5, but we're going to make it playful. We're going to make a game out of it. So you got one of those pool noodles? Just one. So what we've got, because this is also important, is we've got these pool noodles. They're very, very soft. So I can hit her as hard as I want, and it kills her going off, right? So you get there's no pain there, right? This is important for people. You need to start with a sense of total comfort and safety so that you can work through and develop past your flinch reflex. Because when you start flinching away, that's when you can't sell the lie. That's when you're being controlled. So we're using this, and so if Hitomi's there, we're gonna be playing a little bit of game. It's like little kids playing tag, and I was going to whack her. And she's gonna try to either stop me before I whack her with the pool noodle, or she's gonna move back out of the way, right? So like this, I'm gonna go. So that was great. So it just nicked the skin right there. So same, that distance she just did was like this. There's a Japanese expression for this that goes, Niku o kirasete honi o katsu, which means you let them cut you skin deep. So thickness of the skin, so that you can be close enough to cut them to the bone. Okay? If you're not close enough to get skin deep, you're not going to be close enough to cut them to the bone. Does this make sense? So we really got to get good at that. Now, if you're uncomfortable swinging at the head, just hit him in the shoulder. Okay? So this is the drill. So one person is going to use this. Now we're also going to do, this is one station. So we're going to have multiple stations. So you notice this is like not really a sword length. You could have a sword length thing. You could use a padded bow, whatever. But I recommend this at the beginning until you're comfortable, and then go to something a little bit stiffer. So like a shinai is stiffer, but people get scared even of a shinai because it hurts a little bit. Well, we're going to play just a tag game. So like, just back up a little bit. So we're going to be here, and she's going to try to get in and just touch my chest, right? So here, so boom, she's going to try and do that. As she does that, I'm going to try and touch her chest first. We can have a tie, or something like this. So as she's here, she goes in. I step back and I get her. I was able to use my Mutadori to suck her in, get her to reach out, and then I got her. Does that make sense? So as you're working with your partner, you just like kids games, really simple things. You're going to play either unarmed like we're doing, or with the pool noodle. And later on, we'll do some more stuff. But go ahead and partner up right now and just warm up with this little bit of game of Mutadori tag, if you will. Okay, let's try that. Okay, real quickly. So on this rule, there's level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So level 1, I'll just rehearse this really quickly. Level 1 looks like this. I've got this thing. I stand here. I can't move my feet. And Hiromi is going to come towards me, and she's either going to stop or come in and stop me before I get it. So she may trick me. So as she's coming in, just go all the way in. Get me. She may do that before I can swing. Okay? Or as she's coming in, she'll make me believe she's going to do that, and I swing, and then she comes in. Right? So those are 2 choices, and I'm doing it for real. Okay? I can't move my feet. This is level 1. So that looks like that's one choice. She made me think I could get her. So one more time. Like that. So you see that balloon coming in there. Those are your 2 choices. That's level 1. Level 2 is the same exact thing, except now I get to take a step. So now I'll probably do this a lot. That's good, right? So see, I get to take a step, but same exact rules. Level 3, now she's waiting for me. So come forward a little bit. Okay. A little bit there. So she's waiting for me. As I come in, she gets to move back 1 step or forward 1 step. I'll be like, and see how as soon as I miss, she's immediately taking control. If you don't take control in that window of opportunity, there's no point in moving the door. We're really got to get to that moment, the opening. So the weapon goes by, and the door's open, and we slip through the door. You guys understand. You guys get that feeling, right? So the next one could be, as I'm coming in, she steps forward and stops me. Ooh, step forward, stop. One time. I go, and she comes in before I do it. Now you see that time, just a little bit of a flinching because if she misses my hand as she's coming in, I could bang her in the head. So this is where we have it, and obviously this is really quite good, right? But to be like Katsumi Sensei, to be fair, he's 85, he doesn't care if his face falls off. Okay? He doesn't have a beautiful face, skin, and a bow, he doesn't care. I've seen him get punched in the face and just for us or some of the guys here that are all concerned about their beauty, you're going to be watching your face. Yeah, you know what I was talking about, right? So just be aware of that. You're going to have, but you got to get over it. That's why we're using this. Okay. So to be fair, in Japan, I'm not using bull moves. I'm using much harder stuff. So when he gets hit in the head, it actually hurts. So that's level 3. Level 4 is if she goes back, I'm just continuing to attack. So come forward again. So level 4, it's like this. And I'm like 1, 2. So I got her there. So now she's got to be able to get me in between those beats. So it's like, so she got me in between the beats. That means she's at that skin level distancing, right? To come in. And then level 5 is what we're doing now. So it's like, bring it around. That punch. But yeah. You saw the punch. That's actually what we want to get into. Okay? So that's the levels that we go through. And in your own dojo, in your own time, you want to spend some time at each of those levels. But for now, we're just playing the kids' game of tag Mutadori, okay? But make sure that you're trying to be like Paul Crumbly gets me a minute, right? No. So when we're doing this, these are not lightsabers. I know they don't hurt, but we're not trying to be like this. Okay? Like that. Okay? So he actually tried to hit me. So in that position. So slow that down so we can see that was like. It went, whoop. See how it's really close to me? So he's like, I think I got it. And then we'll wrap it up. It's at this distance, and I can be like, now I have control. Does that make sense? So this is what we're trying to get to. You have to put that control piece in there after they miss or before they miss. So one more time, you're going to get it before. Does that make sense? So he's not really going to know which one I'm doing because this will move. This looks the same if I go this way as if I go like this. They both look the same to him. Okay? So let's try this again with this Mutadori tag. Okay. All right, a couple of important pieces here. I'm just going to have a couple of you demonstrate something, right? So can you guys just do what you did here, kind of this way? Just do it and make it as bad as you want. I need to demonstrate. Did we say it's bad? I didn't say it was bad. Make it as bad as you want. Oh, no, that's just you want. Great, that's awesome. So that right there. Now, what I want you to do is that exact same thing, about 50% speed. And do that again. Okay. Same neck flow? Yeah, same thing. All right, same way you do. Don't move. Don't move. Okay, now watch. Step forward again. Now watch this. No. You're fine. Go back to the rear. Flip back a little bit. Which one? Just come back right there. Okay, right there. That felt very stressful. Except for this. I mean, your own position. It's really that. Right? So now, hold this out. Now watch this. If you had just done that, you're already, in other words, he was in the position to take control. And then the flinch reflex kicked in, and he tried to move his entire big body out of the path of the foam pool noodle. Very terrifying. Okay? So you see what I'm saying? So you're better off, do that again, and just let it hit you in the head. Wait, really? Yeah, it's a pool noodle. Oh. Yeah, so don't do the baby sticks. Yeah, just don't touch it. Right? So everyone, if you're flinching, do this like 3 or 4 times. You go like, oh, it's a pool noodle. And then you get used to that distance. So now, as you go in, you know what that feels like. See if you can stop them, or see if as you're going in, you can like and cut yourself short. So that looked like I exaggerated. Yeah. So instead of going, see if you can go like, see how it cuts short. Maybe try that. No, so you waited. I did. So you waited, right? So this thing, This is the point I want to make about this. This is great, guys. Thank you. You cannot wait. You cannot wait. You're gonna wait for me to pull the trigger? Yeah. It's too late. It's too late. And yet, why do we all wait? Does anybody know why everyone waits? Everybody is waiting. Why? What?
That's how we train.
It's how you train. Navy SEALs don't wait. They're not like, you're shooting at me. Should I fire back? Do I wait? Do I hang here? No. They're like, they're on it. What? They're how to train. Ninjas wait to try to be invisible. If I don't move, you can't see me. That's not what you're thinking. I'm doing, right? But this is how we train. We're like, okay. And begin. It's like, nothing begins there. So just a real quick story from Hatsumi Sensei. I've said this before. So it's like, 15 thought, super grand, highest rank in the dojo. Teach. Hi. So the highest rank in the dojo pulls out another highest rank in the dojo, and they get out there, and one of them goes. And so he goes, whoa! Stop. What are you doing? You don't do this. You do this in a fight, you're gonna die. This is Soki's words. You're gonna die. He's like, you don't have to come out. He's like, you want to strike someone, you don't let them know you're striking, and then all of a sudden you're in here. Now you strike them from in here. Okay? Once you're in. So you gotta hide all of that stuff. But the grand poobah high rank guy says, hi sensei! He speaks Japanese, right? Full enough. But everyone says hi sensei in Dojo. That's cool. I don't know. We love Japanese. Hi sensei. Right back to straight. 30 years of training. Okay. Now, am I saying you never take this position? No, we're going to do it today. But don't start in this position. You go into that. Okay. So let's get back to this and let yourself get hit. Cool. And then see like, oh, now I'm cool getting hit. Like, see if I can fool him a little bit. All right. Let's get that shot. Okay, real quickly. You guys are starting too close. Does anybody know why you start too close? It's how you train. Okay. So Robert's here and I'm here. From a dead stop that he's at, I know it's going to take him a long time to reach me. Same from here. So you feel comfortable here, right? Now check this out. You say now when you should start moving. Now, where was I when that happened? I was here. This is double the distance of what he felt comfortable with when our feet were anchored into the ground. Now, here's the cool thing. If we're moving around, let's say I got Alex right here. Okay? See our distancing right now? It's much farther now, isn't it? So you're going to try and get it, right? How quickly did I just cross that distance? It's really quick, right? We've trained our reflexes for something that will never happen in real life. Actually, no, it's possible, right? It's possible someone you don't feel like. Okay, but if you get that, you don't really need ninja training. Just come down here. Exactly. Cool. Right? So understand what we're trying to do is train for high level competence, not incompetence. Does this make sense? So that's why I said let's train this way. We got a little more space and just be a little more dynamic. Yeah. This house fall apart. Great. All right, let's try that. Much better. So now let me just give you another little piece of this drill. It's kind of exciting, right? It's kind of fun. So there's two things I want to say. One is, as you start to get this, you don't have to be so energetically. So I recommend you try it energetically as possible. But maybe your ankle hurts or something like that, so you can't be energetic, right? Or maybe you just work the whole day and you're just tired. You feel like that. It's class at night, 7 o'clock at night, work 12 hours, whatever. So you can be like this. So like say Robert's coming in to get me, right? So I can be hard to see that. How much energetic is that? It was I didn't move my feet. Something like this, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is I use my arms. So you want to use your arms optimally. So that you're extending out like this. So if Paul comes in, just come in slowly, right? So we can whoop, okay? See where my distance is? I can touch all the way. So go back again. Again like that. whoop, see my distancing? I'm not worried about his hitting me. I'm just showing you distancing. So one more time. So I go. You understand? You use this because his eyes are automatically targeting and picking up distance and trying to read it. So as he came in, he saw this, so he goes like that. And if I leave my arms there, he tried to go underneath my arms the first time, right? So watch. So as we come in, I go, whoop. See what that looks like? My arms are doing this while my body's going back. So his perception thinks forward motion, especially because I have a forward tilt. The moment that I do this, the moment I break this forward tilt and lean back, he knows it. Everyone does. We all do. We instinctively get it. Little kids do. This is an animal instinct. So as soon as you break back, he will adjust. So keep the forward tilt so that when you're here, you got this other thing too, right? So as he comes in, you go. Notice I didn't extend my arms. Why? I kept my arms back. So his perception was what? I'm further back. And then when he came out, I went boom and close that distance. Did I take a giant step? No. So what I was just talking over here. When you get good at this, like Soke, you don't have to be like boom. Of course, you should practice that, especially if you're in a condition to do that. You should practice that a lot because it will help you. You want to increase your capability. So why was this an important thing some time ago? Because this is a full length stretch as far as you can get. Should you do that in a fight? No way. Should you be able to do that with your feet and legs? Yeah, it's good. Okay? Soke made a point, not today, but a few years ago, I was coming up to a Japanese girl in the dojo and saying, she's a yoga instructor. Like, can you do the splits? She's like, no. So I can. 80-something years old, doing splits. So why? Because that gives you greater capability. What if you're on a slippery surface, right? And you're just doing this and you go whoop, like that. And you've never been in this position. You're weak in this position, and you just go, then you're done, right? But if you've been in that position, when you slip into it, you're good to go. So although I'm teaching, let's be optimal here, just like if you're weightlifting, if you're squatting, you don't want to squat, with your legs out like this, because you can hurt yourself. But for training on your own, you need to have that capacity. We're doing this, we don't want to do that. We want to be optimal, which means move as little as possible. Okay? So those two things, where your arm position is, right? Keep that in mind. And dynamic movement, how much you need. You don't need a lot. You need to fool the other person. Okay? Let's try that again. Keep going. Any questions out there? All right. I don't know if I can hear or not.
Gary wants to.
I saw him earlier. I don't know if he was like asking a question. Isaac, you won't believe this, just said something really important. His partner's coming at him with a sword, and Isaac's doing the thing. He said, I feel like I'm attacking you with this. Yes. Who's the attacker? Who's the defender? So Soke always says, there's no such thing as attacker and defender. That's a false mindset. That gets you into, if I'm the defender, then I must wait and react to what the attacker does. Okay? React. That's stupid. Okay? You have to be preemptive. So, who then is the attacker? That's a false mindset. So, of course, you got the person who's trying to hurt you, and you're trying to prevent that. So we can say that, right? Kind of thing. But really, we're not trying to react or prevent. We're trying to control the environment. So Soke says control. So you guys remember the 6 treasures of Bujinkan, right? That Soke put out. Control. Number 1. Control. Through muto dori. Number 2. The muto dori of control needs to be embedded into your sanshin. Number 3. From the sanshin, your movement that has muto dori embedded in it that you're using to control the opponent, you learn your kihon happo. Then you take that into women's self-defense, which is like this effortless way of using not using power, not using strength on strength. And then the camaraderie, the sharing with partners within the Bujinkan, this teamwork. These are the 6 treasures. Now, people have like jumbled those numbers around. This is the way Soke said it. It's control is number 1. Through Muto Dori, number 2. Your Muto Dori is embedded. You have to say Muto Dori is before Sanshin. Soke said this for years. Muto Dori is before the Sanshin. And the Sanshin is before the Kion Hapo. So it's control, Muto Dori, Sanshin, Kion Hapo, women's self-defense, and training with your martial friends. Okay? So if we understand that, we go, oh, this is a different way of thinking. Now, in this seminar, in this training course I'm doing, I'm coming up to like the 30,000 foot level and talking about the philosophy, the Muto Dori philosophy, or the Kyojitsu, the Tenkan Go philosophy, or whatever. But then we're going to chunk down into smaller and smaller bits until we're just doing a pull noodle smack. You see what I'm saying? This connects to everything else, but we're just narrowing down. And then we're going to come back up, move over and narrow back down. Does this make sense? That's what we're going to do. Okay, so just do this. Change partners now. Everybody rotate to the right. Try this again for another minute or 2, and then we'll talk some more and move on to the next level of this. Don't wear yourself out in the first 10 minutes. Okay. So now with this warm up, this kind of get going, people are starting to get the groove a little bit. People starting to get comfortable. You did. So as we're getting comfortable, now we brought out the knives. I always have the knife, right? So here's an important thing. Knife or not knife, doesn't matter. We want to get to controlling his structure, his ability to deliver an attack. So what people tend to do is focus on the weapon. So as he's cutting, people are like trying to do this kind of thing. That knife is going to move so fast. So like cut and pull it out of the way really fast, right? You understand? That's the thing that people think about. So they're just thinking again. You see where I was going to? So, so the same thing is happening every single time. Why? Because once you understand this and you let it go on your body or standing, okay, so that makes sense? You got to practice this. You see, I'm right on the edge of it, right? Once you know that, so we're going to do it. See that moment right there? So cut and back yourself, right? It's that moment. How much pressure is this? It's again, we talked about this before, the like little flipper hands, like on pinball machines, little flipper thing. That's all. It's that much pressure. It's nothing. But you have to be the right distance. And you have to be you have to be this way because she gets my hand. Won't work now. Go ahead and push me. Okay. Now. Okay. You have to be tilted forward. You have to be. This is critical. This is why we're trying to get this into our movement. So whether it's knife, whether it's just like a machete size thing we're doing, sword, whatever, I need to get to to his shoulder. So get to his shoulder, okay? So let's try it. Get to the shoulder. Get to the shoulder. So if you're getting cut by this knife, it's a pull noodle. It's okay. Get to the shoulder. Okay, try that. So let's look at doing this now, right? So as he's coming in to give me, right? See how I got this here? So now pull your knife back. They're all going to pull it back. As they're pulling it back, you notice my finger's kind of in the armpit. It pulls me. Let your other hand come and kind of go towards the chest muscle up near the armpit. So as I'm going to go boom, and this slides around, and I'm holding this tricep, and I'm holding the shoulder, and I'm tilting my head. I don't want to be here in case he wants to punch me in the ear or something like that, right? I also, when I tilt towards him, I get to move him like this. So this is just the next piece. If you watch like Tim Kennedy and his sheepdog response, you'll see these kind of controls. If you watch wrestling, this is like a wrestling controls. Nothing complicated. It's just how do we get to it? So remember, on module 3, I talked about when you want to put a finish on, you have to go past the target, come back in. So right now, again, it's I'm gonna loop, he pulls it back. I want to get his arm. If I try to get his arm, pull it back, right? So I go, see, I'm shooting for his arm, I miss. So I've got to go past it. So I'm going to punch all the way into the chest and then go through the armpit with the idea of going as far behind it as I can. Does it make sense? So as he does that again, right? Boom. See how it comes in like this? So I'm shooting past the target. We call it going down the center tower. In, round, and back. So he actually moves into my control position rather than me trying to catch this thing out of the air. Which is why this idea of like stab me in it. This is total dog food. You're never ever going to do that. That's you're never ever going to do that. And you'll see people try to like use religious methodology to just like, okay, so what you really do is come over here, or what you really do is spin, jump around, and you're never ever going to catch that thing because in order for the knife to work, it has to be moving. So if he stabs, he's not going to leave it out there and be like, oh, there was my one shot, barely my arm locked out, I'm done. No one's going to do that. It's going to be boom, and you're never going to catch that thing in mid-flight. But what you can do is realize that it's going to go home. It's going to retract back to its starting position. Okay, so when he stabs, it's going to come here. This is where it stops. So there's a concept in Japanese called Shinken Shiraha Dome. Can you tell us what that is? Shinken Shiraha Dome. It's Dome. So you guys see like the ninja anime where they go catch the sword here? Okay, that's Shinken Shiraha Dome. Catching the live blade, stopping the live blade. You can't do that. That's comic book.
Actually, both correct. Ruri or dome, both correct. But anyway, the sharp, nice sword, blade, try to catch with hand.
So you can't do that, but it's a real thing. What's the real thing? When the blade's moving, there'll be a place where it stops. Where might it stop, Alex? Home. So if you cut, let's just say you cut right to left.
In your head.
It's going to stop right here before it reverses, right? Yeah. It's going to stop right here. Draw, it hits apex, it stops there for a moment, then comes into the next piece, right? So there are these moments where it's moving, it stops, and goes. You can, at that point, is where you can do something, but not at apex retraction. So if I cut and I come here, you're not going to catch this moment here. You have to understand where I have to reset to do the next attack. It's at the reset point that you catch. Does that make sense? So like if I stab here, if I cut down, it's still here. It's still able to do this stuff. You're not catching it there. You may catch it there. So you may do this. Do you understand? Nothing's impossible. It's just unlikely. So when we're doing this, we're not catching this here. We're going to go. Don't catch the wrist. I'm just showing you, if you were going to get the wrist, where would you get it? You get it back here. You're not going to get it out here. And guess what? The Densho does not say you will catch his wrist when his arm is extended. It just says catch his wrist. The Kuden, or the voice of experience, will tell you it will be when it's retracted. Anyone that's had some practice shouting knows you're not going to catch this part. Catch it here. And that's still, I mean, it's still dangerous no matter what you do for that, right? But at least that's where it's at. So this is what we're looking at. So as he does his attack on boom, boom, boom. Okay? Let's just try that. If you can get to that. Try to get to that. Can someone demonstrate this real quick so we can see if anybody's doing it? Yeah, good at that. Wait, let's do that again. You. Might be more evil looking. Okay? have some movement. So don't stand there and be like, guy's gonna come and I'm gonna stab. No one's gonna come running up to you to get stabbed. That's much better. Okay, so once we got to that point, Alex, think of a technique. Like a lock or a trill or a cruise, right? Like okay, so one or the other. Oh, he's not going to for and when we could actually get the same practice. Okay, how about a make concept? Okay. From there, I want you to get to a Ganseki Nage. This is going to be the goal. Okay. So what I'm going to show you something. Might not be able to do it. But you're all going to not be able to do it. Figure it out, and we'll come back and I'll show you how to get it. But Ganseki Nage from that point. Start with easy ones. Okay, and one more time. You are the knife guy. Right. You got to get the same control point. So this is what I want to say. As soon as I say magic ninja words, origyaku, people go, oh, I'm just gonna do origyaku. Stab, 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 stab. No, there's a process. You got to not get killed in the first cut. You got to get to control position from a structural control, which is shoulder to this point. And then from there, if you're chest deep, you can begin to go for a closing position. Until you've gone through the process of doing this, you're not going to get to your onipodaki or your choke or whatever. None of the finishers. You cannot do a finisher until you are chest deep. Not going to happen. You may get lucky. The guy may have a heart attack as he tackled. Same odds. Maybe higher for the heart attack than you get it if you're not chest deep. Okay? So just remember that. You got to get chest deep. So I'm getting you into shoulder control. You're coming around. You got shoulder control. Then you have to figure out, how do I get into a Ganseki Nage from here? Because this is the skill set. So we learn Ganseki Nage, but we learn one way to get Ganseki Nage. And what is it? Hold my elbow. Who the hell is going to hold your elbow? Where does that come from? Well, it comes from wearing armor. That's where it comes from. Nobody's wearing armor these days. So no one's grabbing your elbow and standing there while you do Ganseki Nage. It's not going to happen. So that's almost a useless thing to practice. Not totally useless, but almost. The question is, do you understand Kyohaku correctly? Which is this. Think of an asterisk, 8 points. That's Kyohaku, 8 points. And each one of those lines with the asterisk creates another 8 points. And each one of those lines creates another 8 points. Out to infinity. This is how Hatsumi described it. This is how Nagata described it. So what does that mean? That means how many different ways can you do Ganseki Nage? If I said, all right, this whole seminar, this whole weekend, we're going to spend 6 hours today. How many Ganseki Nages do you think we come up with in this room? 12. 12 would be spectacular. I would guess 4. And there's a whole bunch of people. Why? Because people don't think like that. What I'm saying is, I'll do 50. I'll do 500. I'll just teach from here to the end of the day doing a new Ganseki Nage one. Because I'm thinking about Ganseki Nage and how to get to it. So I'll do it from your back, I'll do it from your front, I'll do it from your head, I'll spin you on, put you on the floor, I'll do it on your leg, I'll do it with my leg, I'll do it against your finger, I'll do it with my finger, I'll do it with my foot, see what I'm saying? Just a whole bunch of it, because that's how you gotta think about it, as all these infinite expressions. So the training of this right now is you gotta go through the door, you gotta get to the control point, and then you gotta figure out, how am I gonna get to the Ganseki Nage? And there's not one way. That's why I'm not showing you the way, because you will come up with some clever, creative way that works in the moment you did it. You'll do something that copies him. I'm just kidding. You'll do something different. Okay? So let's try to get to that control point, and then Ganseki Nage. Give it a shot. Remember what I said. Module 3. I know some people that haven't seen Module 3 yet. Remember what I said in Module 3. To get to the key home, what am I going to have to do? Chest deep. We got to get chest deep. What else? What? You're going to have to go past the technique, the target, the technique. So I got to get the Ganseki Nage position. You guys know what the Ganseki Nage position is. You're not going to be able to go straight to Ganseki Nage. You're going to have to go past it. in time and space. What does that mean? Time means you're not going to get it in one more move. You're here, you're not going to go here, you're not getting it. Right. There's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't know how many other moves, other transitions until Ganseki Nage. That's time. Space means that, again, I'm going to have to go past the thing that I'm thinking about. So if I'm holding this arm and I want to scoop this arm, I'm not going to be able to just scoop the arm. I'm going to have to go past it and keep control of the person as he keeps attacking and moving, and let that process unfold until Ganseki Nage position appears. I don't expect people to get it if you haven't practiced this yet. I just want you to explore. And then I'll show you a couple of options for that. Okay? And just so we know, this is seminar number 1. There will be 4 seminars in this series. Since you chose Ganseki Nage on then in the other seminars, I'll be doing different closing finishing techniques. So we're going to keep mixing things up so that although you've attended this one, you can join Zoom on the other ones, or you can watch it later at your own leisure, pull up and be like, okay. So that you just really steep yourself, you immerse yourself in this way of getting to the thing you want to do. So most Bujinkan and most martial arts learn the finishing part of a fight first, which doesn't make any sense. So again, if I go back to the Navy SEALs, if they start Navy SEALs, they're like, okay, here's what we're going to do. This is how you kill the guy. Well, how do we get to where we kill the guy? Well, we're not going to teach that. There's no insertion. What? We don't learn how to get it. No, we're not. Actually, we're going to like jump out of planes or go on boats, or we're not going to do any of that stuff. We're going to spend 30 years learning how to kill a guy with a knife or shoot him up close, but we're not going to teach you how to get up close. That makes no sense at all, does it?
Swim 1,000 feet, quietly.
Yeah. So how much of Navy SEAL training is swimming, jumping out of stuff, crawling across things, marching, getting to the actual endpoint? It's up 99%. The endpoint is the last little bit. Why are we spending 99.99% of our time on the endpoint? We need to learn the insertion. Well, because it's cool, right? It's what we see in the movies. Like, yeah, I did that and killed him. Understand? So let's get to the thing. Remember, you still gotta do your cool ninja tag, get to the shoulder control, and then let the guy keep attacking and moving and figure out how to let them move while you control him. You hold his hair, his ears, I don't know, whatever you want to do, and get to a Ganseki Nage. Okay? And then in a couple minutes, I'll show you how to do a couple versions of it. Try that. So, one thing you got to be careful of, and ninjas are famous for this. Practicing martial arts that you learn from cartoons. Almost all Bujinkan is just a cartoon. I know, it sounds terrible, right? Why do I know? So, my buddy Ray here, he's very powerful, very strong. So while I am moving at this speed, he goes, Zzz. This is known as Toki Tobashi. Toki Tobashi. So you guys remember a few years ago, Soki was talking about Isi Tobashi, skipping stones, right? He skips stones in the water. Toki Tobashi is the same thing, but with time. It's a time skip. He's a time jumper. So I'm moving at a time rate of 0.3. He's moving at a time rate of 3000x. So if I sped up to my full speed and he maintained that same relative speed, he would disappear from all of our perception. You wouldn't be able to see him. He's moving so fast, your brain couldn't recognize him. This is Toki Tobashi. Okay? So here's your rule for training. When we're doing this, if you're the dude doing the thing, whatever the thing is, it doesn't matter. And it's not just Ray. We all have done this. We all do it. Everybody, including the greatest, best masters in the world, do it sometimes. Okay? Because we're human, we're far away. So always try to remember, you got to do the technique. Just hold your arm up, hold my. And let's say that I'm doing this, and he pushes against me. I don't try to wellness power. I'm going to always assume that wherever I'm making this contact, he's stronger than me. Unless I've already had like something like this, where I know that like I'm using like my pinkies all over the place, that's a different thing. So what Soke said, and this is why Soke is so brilliant, so fantastic. It's like you have to be able to control one finger. And of course, some people hear that they're like, you can't fight with one finger. That's not realistic. We gotta use power. We gotta make this real and solid. Soke's doing that. Like that's not what Soke said. What Soke said was, you gotta use one finger. Because if you can position yourself with the tiny and the distance so that one finger's power is enough to control that position, you've done it correctly. This is related to Josei no Go Shujitsu, which is women's self-defense. Why? She is not going to power him at no point unless she's in the proper position. So if I can do it with one finger, she can do it with her hand. Does this make sense? This is the whole point of this one finger thing. So you got to test these positions. So at any point, if I can do it with a finger, okay, that's probably good. Second thing is, I'm going to move slower than he moves. Whatever that means, I'm always going to move slower than what he is. I mean, I'm going to screw it up because I'm a human being. So sometimes I'm going to move faster. Right? But try as hard as you can as you're training to let the other guy move faster than you. Once you get the hang of that, you start to realize like, oh wow, that's actually way easier to move slower than the other guy. He gets to make all the mistakes. But until then, you're going to feel, your brain is going to tell you, no. You got to go faster, which is why everyone's cut down like this, which is why everyone's like doing that. Okay? You're never going to do that in real life. Never going to do that. You can't. It's not possible. But when you start to realize, like, wait, if I just go slow, so he goes and cut me, right? He goes, and you go, oh, can you cut back again? I got a finger on there, right? You can't, right? So if I come here like this, I'm going cutting. The back of my finger, because it's position. So once we understand that, you start to understand what Soke is teaching. Soke is not saying, let's cut it out. So Soke is doing this, and he's got his finger on, he's like, let's do this. People are like, you can't disarm a knife like that. Duh. No one's gonna leave the arm out there. Soke is not disarming. What Soke is saying is, right here, he goes, whoop. See how I just pulled the shoulder out in front of the hip and over like this? So now, push back against my finger. You can't, because I took this optimal position against it. That's what Soke is teaching. Not how to disarm a knife with one finger. You can't disarm a knife with one finger. That's hard. So we understand that. What are we doing now, though? I want you to practice getting to these positions. Let the guy keep attacking you. When you feel, oh, he's going to get me, let him get you. Remember, it's a pull move. It only cuts Isaac. In perpetuity. Okay, so let's try that again with those two rules. Let me show this. Let me show one way of doing this. We're gonna have a break, right? So let me just show one way of doing this. Can I have a knife? Nice. Okay. Okay, so I'll show this thing. So I'm going to come in, right? So this is a good position, right? So now watch where she goes from here. Go ahead. So now I'm going to come around. So there was a moment she missed it, right? But it was good. See what she did? She went around my back, right? So get my back.
So I want to stand here.
Right. So as she lets this go, she gets my head. That's what she needs. See that head, shoulder control? So boom, see that change? And then it's so remember what I said? 1 step, 2 step, 3 step. Now I got it, not one. So I'll show you again, just slow. As she cuts, she recreated this. This is here. This pins the shoulder in place, so the only way she can go is that way. Then it goes. Okay? Now, where does she want to go from here? Okay, so I can choose which way I let her go. I can let this go, right? Except I let this go. And of course, that's what she wants to do, because that's where the knife is. So she's going to try and turn to cut me. So watch, go and turn to cut me. Okay? So as she goes to do that, I go, whoop. See, I pull this, see, I'm still holding this arm. See, this is away from me. Then I change hands. This comes up. I'm pushing forward, moving in, boom. Okay? So this is a way of getting to the Ganseki Nage. So again, I will forget this by tomorrow. Because I don't care about the form of this. But this is a way, so let's try that. We're gonna take a break in a minute. You guys can work on it for a few minutes. We're gonna take like 30 minutes. Okay, we're gonna come back in at what's it? 1 now, so it's 2, like 2:10, 2:15, something like that. Okay, so everyone is afraid of a knife. But remember, a knife is not a lightsaber. It's not an injection of poison. I mean, it may be, poison, so, like in Dune, the knife is, but this is not Dune, okay? So if you move away from the knife, you open the person up to be able to get you. So he goes to cut, right? So like boom, boom, we're here. Okay? As I start to do this, which way do you want to go now? So I let this go. Now, where do you go to train? Icon. Right? So it goes here. So then he's not going to cut across his head like this. He can, but look what happens now. Yeah. But he's not going to try. So no one's going to do this with a knife. You're right. Sorry. No one's cutting like this. Again, why did he do that? Because we just stopped. He's like, well, I don't know what to do. And what he said was important. He said, I don't know where my momentum is going. A couple of times. So that's where his momentum is going. That's where it's going. That's where it goes. Where's it on? You know he's got the knife, right? So as she goes to cut, right? See how it goes there? Then I'm coming in like this. Now, what does she want to do? Does she want to stay here?
I want to get out.
Okay, so as she gets up, I let her go. See where that goes? So even though she's coming around, she's thinking, I get here, just go, boom. Now, watch this leg, it goes. Now, from here, you're thinking, stay away from the knife, right? Wrong. Move towards the knife. Okay, so from here, can you stab me? From here, can you stab me? And from here, can you stab me? Do you understand? You have, so I said at the beginning, this is Kyojitsu, and what will stop you from having Kyojitsu is your fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the So if you have fear, you can't do Kyojitsu because you're here, you have to move towards it. And all the stuff that we're training on right now, you notice, move into it, move towards it, move towards it, move towards it. I'm watching my student on there. That was one of the first things I made him do 20 plus years ago is move towards it. Move towards it. Because everyone wants to move away. But you gotta move towards it. Once you start moving towards it, doors open up. Okay? So let's take a break. Try this Ganseki Nage if you want to. Move towards it. Otherwise, we're coming back in like 30 minutes. Okay? Try that. So we're gonna go back into the same kind of thing. Only we're gonna look at a little bit of sword work right now. Okay? And it's the same idea, same general idea. So if Alex is like he's a sword guy, and I'm a sword guy, so he's got a sword, he can do whatever. So a lot of times people are saying they're like this close. You're already in a fight here. You will walk the sword, you're already in a fight here. Okay? So I want to have back up just a little bit. So what I want us to do, because we're going to be going this way, right? But I want us to start to come in on each other. So we're coming in. So it's kind of the same thing, right? And like now, we're going to figure out who's going to be, he's going to be my attacker, but really there's no attacker, no defender. Who's going to control first? And this is where we're going to get into something kind of cool, because now we're using weapons. So as we're here like this, really quite that easy. You see, I'm not even moving fast. So you can. See how awesome my technique is? We're gonna just What am I doing?
Control.
Control. So here's key. What was the tag game that we did? Same thing.
I mean,
It's trying to get. So here's what you're going to want to do. It's crazy. You hold something like this again. So now let me ask you a question. It's a simple question. I'm over here, and he's pointing the gun at me, and I move 2 inches to my right. Is he gonna miss? No. But what if I could move? He's aiming at him, and I can move this 2 inches to the right. Is he gonna miss? So what I'm telling you is, put your defense as close to the attack as possible. If you can affect it over there, this end has a lot of change. If you're trying to like far away, you don't have it. You're using a lot of energy and you have to move a lot, and you get a little effect. Just going whoop, there is a massive effect. Does it make sense? As much as possible. So what we're trying to do is, even if he's like this, down here, I go whoop. So I'm controlling. I'm controlling. It's all about control. It's all about. So here, should. Okay. And even if he tries to cut down, you can try to cut down. Right. I'm just doing the same thing. It's the same tag game, it's the same whatever. And he as we start doing this together, he'll start like, okay, now I'm gonna try to do that. He'll start trying to, it won't matter. It won't matter. It won't matter. Because here's the rule. There's a space in between us. He who controls this space first wins. I mean, nothing's perfect. Something always happens. He who controls the space first wins. So I'm here. This is why Sophie is not this kamae like this. So you got gate under kamae, right? Same thing. And then you just go through this kamae. So really just walking around. So it's like, so if I were coming forward, and you see, if he does not block my sword, what happens next? I get him. So he's got to react to it. But what people try to do is this. They try to do this. See how I'm trying to receive it and block next to me? That's death. Maybe I'll get lucky. Maybe I would. Maybe. But we're going to stack the odds. So again, back a little bit. Go ahead and cut me, right? See what happens there? See how it's, if I let it go, it's just going down like that. So even if he doesn't extend out, try to bring it down like that. So it goes, whoop. See where it's going? See, I'm controlling the space. We're using these soft ones, so you don't have to feel like, but with this, like a wood sword or a regular sword, nothing's going good. He's sliding down the blade. Does this make sense? So control as close to your attacker as possible. Don't wait for them to launch their missile into your airspace and try to hope that you hide underneath some kind of shed that won't get finished. You understand? But take out the aircraft carrier. Don't try and shoot all the planes down. Take out the aircraft carrier. Does this make sense? So let's get some swords, and you're going to do this toe squeeze be like this because it's this same thing. Don't wait. Don't wait. Don't wait. Remember, the tag is he who controlled it first. But we still have this trained habit of let them start the cut and then do our thing. Okay. So Paul and I are here. Paul, do the thing. Okay. Now I'm gonna tap Paul. So Paul's gonna do this to me, right? So he's catching it next to him. It's easy to tell which side of the line. There's a line between us. So I'm getting closer. It's still between us. It's in the middle. Which side of the line is it happening on? If it's happening on my side, you can win. If it's happening on his side, I'm gonna win. Why? Just put short of it, right? He's here. Now, I've got all this room that I can maneuver. I have maneuvering room. He doesn't. If he moves his sword some way, or if he moves it the other way, you understand? He doesn't have room to maneuver. I do. You have to understand this. And all this happens fast. You watch Kendo guys. You watch Kendo in the group, they're all like, But if you watch like the 8th dan guys, 7th dan guys, they're looking at each other they're like, BAM! It's done. They're done. And they're like, shh, done. They're not going like on each other's hand. They're like, boom! You know, and the swords go, shit, it's done. The Kenjutsu guys, you know, they got like, they're like, okay, yeah, maybe. But really, man, you got swords, when you start to realize this, they slide. These swords are curved, so when they hit, they slide off. You know, maybe it's fingers, if you're doing it stupidly, you know, but they're angles. So we're looking at these angles. So if you watch this a minute, the angle that I'm going in on is I'm here, and notice where this is. You see what's happened? So slowly raise your sword, okay? Boom. This is the first piece. I'm actually going, I'm going up to here. I want to be like on his wrist. That's the best thing, right? But what I'm doing, as I go, I'm going up. And now, I don't leave this in the middle. Why? That's why. I do this. I leave this top here, and this goes here. You understand? And I'm not going to stand here either. So, so you see where this angle is? Notice I'm keeping the shit, and this comes in here. I'm not doing this. Everybody does this until they train themselves not to. Everybody collapses this in, which just brings that thing into your side. Again, I want to keep this over there. So I'm just going to boom. See how I keep the sword away from me? Because I'm controlling his side. Does it make sense? Good. Let's try that. This needs to be explained a bit. There's a thing with a Rochakubo technique called Shiho Furiburai. Bujinkan people know this. It looks like this. Spinning a stick. Okay? And they go, oh, it's Shiho Furiburai. I said some Japanese word. What does Shiho mean? Shiho. 4 directions. 4 directions. Not 2. So when I see people do this, my attacker's there where the screen is, you see people doing this. And then they go, and then it's this side. Right? You see this X I put on the floor? This is the 4 directions. So check this out. It goes. You see where this spins? Why? Because behind this X is my Hotoku, my sword shield. I'm behind this. Whether it's a bow, combo, a sword, my arm. Does that make sense? So when I'm doing the sword thing, the tip comes up and it goes, and I'm still behind this. So their sword is on that side. But what most people do, as he goes to cut, people go, now, you see where that sword's going next? Right to me. And I took my tip away from him. Because people are thinking, I'm going to do this. You're not going to do that. It doesn't look like that. It looks like this. It goes, June. So there's no circular motion to what I just did. It goes, boom, June. See the circle? It's actually a square. It goes up, down, over. Not a circle. You can't do a circle while you're doing one move. You don't have time to go. But that's what it looks like to the human brain. So you see Sophie all the time, Sophie's going like this. It's like, talk about these different commands. He's like, so you got this, but it's never this. Why is it not this? How come we don't do this command? Oh, a lot of people do. How come Sophie doesn't do this command? Isn't this a command? What's it called? Seiga. And what's the point of it? Right. So people do this all the time, right? Is this correct? So if you do Seiga, and I'm in Daidora, can I cut him now?
You don't have an opening.
I don't have an opening, right?
He has to get offline for it to make it.
and stop me from doing that. Stop. Understand? Yeah. The angle. So here's the thing. We say Seigon is to control their eyes. So the same, if you point at their eyes and they can't see the length of the sword. Y'all heard that before? Okay. How difficult it is for people with two eyes to do this? How difficult would it be for that dude to always keep this perfectly at this angle relative to the motion? Before I move, you have to move to the next place. Now, there's a moment in time, especially if you got like a long bow you're hiding back here, something like that, that's really cool. But that only lasts for a moment, like a brief moment. Because as soon as he goes, whoop, the binocular vision triangulates that. However, you do want to control their eyes. So Sophie does this. You go, you're your movement there. So like this. Where does your brain go right now while I'm doing this? It's aware of this thing, but also it thinks it's safe. Here, you're like, okay, there's a threat, and you're going to deal with this threat. Here, it's like, it's open. But what is this again? What is this position I'm having right now? Right? It's Toto. Toto makes use of the Shiva line. So this is just the mathematics of it. Does this make sense? So again, if I'm here, I'm going to get whacked. This.
Wrong mouse. I'm here. And outside. Here. This is super clear.
Right? But here.
But here, I have no ordering. It is clear. And also the funny thing is, enemy here, row here, and Robinson sword cut is always what can I say? Like this kind of motion. But other people, if you hold this thing, this kind of motion. Do you understand?
Right.
The umbrella.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like his umbrella always to me, and could you round it around?
So my tip is on them,
It's like that.
and my defense is back
Yeah,
here.
and his attack is also like that. But everybody's umbrella is opposite.
Yeah, so next to me is no
Do you
defense.
understand?
Does that make sense? You want a shield. The point of the shield is over there. The point is not backed by you. The point, yeah, point of the shield. You just got like a curved shield. Just want to curve it around this
But
way.
imagine about umbrella, and our fist or the bread is the brain, and he is already have umbrella, haha. But somehow you guys use umbrella opposite way. What? It's easy and don't forget.
So right now, you have like these little emblems on your shirt. Just think about it. That's the center, and the handle moves around this way. Not this, because once this is out here, she's got freedom to move in there. When you keep that threat right near them, where they have to be aware of it, like you're occupying their perceptions. This is that Kyojitsu, right? You may not kill them, but you're making them aware of that threat. So it's about something. It's like fencing. Fencing, they're not going like this. They're not going like. Right? They're keeping this here, and there's a whole lot of like. And sometimes they got like this, but they don't go and open themselves up. This thing's coming back, so they're like, whoop. Okay. So it doesn't have to say the tip never comes off the center. Of course it will. Of course it will. But we're trying to right now get it on dead center. So we're going, boom, it flips up into place. Notice I've got kind of like it's not 45 perfect. It's going to be relative. So the tip of the sword is over my head. So if they're doing some kind of side thing, it catches up there. If I'm like this, there's nothing protecting my upper head. If I go up like this, I'm exposed in here. So I want to cover maximum position as possible. Cover maximum position, whichever side it is. And then, whichever side their sword is on, I want to be shielded against it. That's all. It's not really complicated. It's like you said, the tip is the center. This moves around. to provide a shield. So anyone that saw a picture of like Kasamatsu a long time ago, he's doing this thing, you see it, right? He's hiding behind the sword. This is Toto. He's hidden behind it, just like this. Okay? He's over here. You're still hidden behind it. So it's this four-directional thing, this X, and this is here on the X. So let's use your swords like that. Think about that. Toto is the X, the Shiho. Okay? We say Shiho Dori capturing, but Shiho Dori Warai is spinning, spanking thing. Okay? So let's try that. So let me talk about this. See? So I said about Seigan, right? I was talking about Seigan. And you don't need to stand right here. So basically, just so you can see this, step back. So Kyojitsu, we're talking about this interplay of truth and falsehood. We're talking about holiness. If I'm doing this, however cool I am, wearing my gi, my black belt, my hachimachi headband, and my elbows perfectly tucked in, I'm perfectly bladed here like that. How much deception can I do from that position? If I'm actually pointing this directly at her eyeballs, how much deception is there? Come and see. She knows exactly where it is. She's got a sword. She knows exactly where it is. Now, as I said, the Seigan is on the Shiodori line. Okay? Now, what is her belief? What belief might she have at this point? There's an opening. So belief is an opening. This threat is ambiguous. Again, Seigan controls the eye, so she's aware. So like now, she feels a threat. Not this. This is a direct threat. This is two animals, two alpha. They're going to fight. Okay. This is maybe not, and this is an opening. Do you understand? The thing is, I'm still shielded. I'm not doing this. Right? I'm not like. See, I'm not here. And that's what you see Soge, no matter what Kamai is like, and this is the Kyokushin one, and this is and everything he's doing, he's still like this. He goes, Soge doesn't go, and you do this. There's no point Soge doing this. Soge may do this, right? And it's always, he doesn't talk about these things in detail. He just says, it's this. And then you have to go, what is that he's talking about? And figure it out. He gives you the hint. That's his own words. I'm giving you a hint. So the Seigan, you can hear. So Soke, that's why Soke does Kosi. This is Gaidon. Of course, in Gaidon, you can do that, but now you've locked your hips and stuff into this, a formal Kamai, which has a lot less deception in it. This is the ninja Kamai. So this is kind of hidden by the silhouette of your leg. So you can imagine it's night or playing, whatever. So this is hidden by the silhouette of your leg. Could be on this side too, right? So you got your Indeko, right? There's a short sword, something like that. This is the idea. Again, who knows what the reality is, right? But the idea is this is hidden here, and it's down. So you're like, here's my head, here's my heart. Go ahead and tap. But this thing can go really quick and shoot out right up its target. So this is the deception. This is the deception. If I'm like here, and then I go, there's no deception there. He's not going to be like, oh, wait, it's an opening. It's like obvious. I'm holding this here, and I go, duh. I'm not going to fall for that. But if I'm like, I stab this guy, come around, I'm like, we're fighting. I'm like this. I'm like, moving like, see, like, there is an opening. But I'm like, right? You can't. It's so some stuff we do. It's really kindergarten level thinking. You know, we got to kind of rise beyond that. We got to make it blurry and indistinct. And the truth is, you shouldn't be waiting for them to attack. Because if they're like, is he going to do point? You understand? We're trying to catch that. What we're trying to catch is these, whatever the perception is. So if you don't meet my attacker, and she's thinking, now's a good opportunity to attack, I want to do something that makes you go, oh, maybe not now. And in that moment, we're like, oh, maybe not now, then you attack. Counter. So it's the same thing with the Budo Dori. We were doing this earlier. So just push it like this, okay? As I'm coming in, I'm gonna just slow it. As I'm coming in, boom, I look at her about to take the next step. She goes to swing, I go, cut it short, and then I continue on. That little hiccup in the movement, okay? Now, what may happen is she may start to go and then go, wait, it's a trick, right? So I come in and she goes, and then stops, and I go, you understand? But if I'm intending, I'm gonna trick her, I'm not really gonna go in, and I have that commitment. That's not Kyojitsu. That's me trapped into my form. This is the difficult thing. So you have to learn a form, then you have to transcend the form. And we all heard this before. Shu Hari. It's so difficult because the more that you work to get your form good, the more difficult it will be to leave it behind. You know, you bought your car, you put new rims on it, you waxed and buffed that car. When you do that, the more difficult it is to go drive into the mud. You know, so it's this way. You don't want to get rid of that thing that you polished up. None of that stuff that you polished up is for you. You got to move beyond it. Okay? So as we're doing this, we're really trying to catch that moment. And then I want you to start to look at, all right, so let's say that you get that moment. You know who's going to do this to me. She's going to get me under control. Okay? So I'm here, right? And boom, she'll do the thing. Get control, right? I'm here, so boom. And now, and do your control, do your next piece. You're winning. You're going to win. Okay? So I go, boom. So see how we're like, whoa, looks like that, right? Now it starts to get like, ooh. Mm-hmm. Two skilled people at the skill level do the thing. Starts to become more difficult. This is what I want you guys to go to next. To show you what happens, because it's going to come down to a matter of sensitivity. And this is what training is. So one more time. From here to boom.
Is it okay?
Right? So, okay, I'm here. So, she wins, you win. Okay, you catch me there. So, then she got my finger, right? But I'm not done. So, I don't stop. I move too.
Wow.
Right? Notice I'm not moving faster than she is. She's moving more than me. So, it will come down to who's controlling the shin, which is the fulcrum, between us in the fight. So right now we're letting one person win, we're letting one person practice, and that's normal. But once you kind of move or be able to do it, then get to this level. If you can, if you can't get this and do this yet, just keep doing it. Don't move beyond. There's no point.
So, Brian, you've talked about speed, like kind of matching, going at the same speed, or trying to go slower than your opponent. There's a strength factor that's kind of similar. Like one person could be coming in much harder and stronger. Yeah. You can say about that?
Yeah, that's it. There's two things. You go slower, use less power. Wherever the put power, you get to use a finger's pressure amount of power. That's it. But that way you. So again, it's just because maybe you're a big, strong dude. So, for example, in Japan is Darren. He's just big and strong. So even if he wants to use no power, he just goes like this, and you're like,
Yeah, when he just put on his fist on my shoulder, I was like, oh,
yeah. So for Darren to train with women, he's got to like use his fingers, but the back of his fingers. He's got to do it like this, like backward finger pressure. You know, like this. Just to know that he's actually doing the proper positioning rather than just going. Because even dudes, he's just like, you know, and slings them across the dojo because, you know, when you're 300 pounds and 6'8" and it's mostly muscle, that's a lot of power. So we got to give ourselves a handicap to train so that we actually get better. We have to handicap ourselves. Okay? So that's what we're doing right now. So go back to, you're both training it, and you're going to run into some obstacles, and that's the point of this training. So let's try to. So another important piece here. Again, there are like environmental concerns, environmental situations that create habits. So, just for example, if you go to Japan, you'll notice that the roof is very small. If you get a hotel room, it's a small hotel room. house is small, apartment is small, bathroom is small. Fine, environment. They don't have so much open space to build sprawling estates. Okay? So this is an environmental concern. So now imagine if you got 12 people trained in the space this big. What would that look like doing sword training? So that occurs, there's no in that space, 2 people can't do realistic sword training. Much less 8, 9, 10, 12. So what do? They make the training, they change the condition to simulate as best they can. So it looks like this. You know who's going to do the door. So this kid right here. And remember, a whole bunch of us shoved in this little space. So we start right here. Now, is it possible for her to move out of the way before I nail with the sword here? But that's not impossible. So what do? We do this. We go. Cut. So now move out of the way. Not back. This side. Okay. So that works. Well, what did I do? I telegraphed enormously. I took a step and then brought my sword down. Think about it. How would everyone ever cut? Why would you cut like that? I mean, even if you had all the room in the world, why would you cut like this? Because they see it coming. They're moving out of the way. They're not waiting for that. But I look at home group, it's the same thing. People are this close to each other and they're going, right? Why? Some training happens. And no one goes, hey, man, this can't be right. Nobody does it. I look at the highest number of people and they're in their own dojo with this much space and they're still like this. And then they go, okay? So be aware of what you're doing. Now, I have a sword. Maybe she's poisoned to touch. In some ways, it's big. So from here, I want to stay as far away from her as I can be cut her. So I'm going to cut her with this part. So would I first move into here, cut her with this? I'm going to die. So from here, what I want to do, I want to be able to cut it here. Here. So I want to be at least this far when I cut. So let me here. So I'm going to take a step in. So I want to be like this. Boom. So you see how my body filled that space after my sword went into space? What's the difference in that? The difference is, see that flinch? Everybody does that. Everybody does that. So why? Because everyone's used to, right? And as soon as I go, see how she did? That was good. Don't do that. Good shit. Good shit. Everyone does that. Once you get used to moving first, controlling the space, who's being proactive? I'm using all these terms, right? Right? Don't wait for the trigger to pull. Move before they pull the trigger. If I'm bringing my gun up, you should be moving now. Okay? So what I get with my guys a few years ago is, before we cut the Daijodon, we're going to start here, and we're going to go, just so they have, this is the lead-in. So if someone's drawing the sword, you move it now. You don't wait for them to get to here, and then you move. You move while they're drawing the sword out. Does that make sense? So same thing. Don't start here, and then go after I, that's stupid. It's this. It goes, okay, looks like that. Notice I'm coming in after the sword cut. I'm not stepping first. It's a follow through step, not a lead step. Follow through, not lead. Follow through. So, so all I really need to do is get this weapon over next to her and then do stuff with it. So saying that, look at this. Now watch. How much range did I just get there? So check this out. So see where Hinomi is? And far away I am? Watch. Without moving my feet. Without bringing my head forward. Why? I moved my scapula. But what everyone does, because they're stiff in their back, and the scapula, they're going. Gotta walk in closer. Okay? You need to work on scapular activation, which means protraction, move forward. Back first, back first. Do push-ups where you keep your elbows locked. Do this. Okay? You start to get the hang of it. It takes a little bit to get your brain turned on in a few days. It's not hard. But then you get punches that go like this. So, notice I'm not even moving from the position. It's interesting, oversensing topics. Again, oversensing, they like here, you go. The end would be the scapula coming around to the actual power. At the end. So you be like, get yourself as far as you can get with your hips and everything like, and then punch the scapula. To train them. And all the time you would hit people, you will, like that ball. And they'd be like, how'd you hit me from there? Because you had this extra reach from practicing this extension. So same thing with the sword, if I'm practicing from here, I can kill it from here, even if I'm like this. Because I can just go. Does that make sense? So you need to work on this too. This will help. So like I'm attacking Alex, you can do cool technique, right? So I'm here to go. See how I'm reach when you can. See, I got that extra reach on him, whereas if I check back here, I went. So he's now got control of my hands. But when I went past him, he might have cut my wrist, but I killed him. Does that make sense? So now I want to do the opposite. So now he's going to cut me, right? I'm going. See how I'm extending my scapula out so that it gets that away? Because if I'm here, look at that. He's already on my side. If I catch it here, he's on that side. Can you see the difference of just doing this? And of course, it happens really quick. So it's just like, whoop. See how quickly that is? We're dragging it out because I want to emphasize it, but it's so fast. And really, it's much more like this. It's just boom, bam, boom. Okay? You gotta think about it. Once I'm doing a duel with someone on sword, I'm on his multiple attacks. So,
but thank you for that piece, because we've been practicing just to get there and control it and then slowly moving. I didn't realize that it's going to be a bump just like everything, all the other bumps.
So again, at the beginning, the middle, and the end. I'll do 1, 2, and 3. The beginning is the mutadori, where you're like crossing the divide to get to contact. Once you have contact, it's bumpity stuff that's happening. And you're trying to put road bumps in their attack. You're trying to disrupt their patterns and maybe, do something enough to stop them. But you may not be able to stop them yet, but you at least need to disrupt their attack. So it may be like crossed the barrier, got the contact, disruption, close. Does that make sense? I don't know. Maybe they break free and you got to cross the barrier again. So I had a graph that I put out, which is pretty simple. It's beginning, middle, and end. And the beginning is crossing the barrier. So you have no contact control, no control point. In the middle, you have a partial control point, a partial 0 point. And then to the end, you have a complete 0 point. Well, if you go from beginning to middle and they slip out, here's where you go. Back to the beginning. If you can get from beginning to middle and they keep going and you're not able to get to a close, you're just going from middle, middle. Maybe at some point you can get to a tight position where you can put on your techniques, whatever they are. Then you go to it again. Does that make sense? But maybe you're going for the end, you're trying to slip out again, and guess what? Back at the beginning. And at any point along the way, either one of you could die. Like something else could be interjected in. Maybe they're super good strikers and they just knocked you out. Right from the, you thought, oh, like, wait a minute. Or maybe they just stuck up and stuck a knife in your throat. That's all possible. maybe a friend of theirs showed up and whacked you in the back of the head with a bottle or shot you, or what, all that's positive. But for training purposes, we can't do any of that stuff because it doesn't make a difference. You lost. For training purposes, you're going to train on how you might win. Someone asked me, like, well, what would you do if, like, there was a retarded ninja 1,000 feet away and he sniped you? It's like, shut up. You know? But I can't do anything if you're already dead, you know? So what we're working on is, like, the beginning. We've got to close this distance. Once we've closed it, we've got some kind of contact. So unarmed, we're trying to get this thing, right? We're trying to get these control points. And then this is more distance. So we're trying to do the control with this, which tends to be a little more pushy, right? Rather than, this is push too, but it's like winding them kind of towards us. We're trying to get them closer. This, we're trying to like wind them and use the weapon for control rather than our hands. Does that make sense? And then to the finish, we can do finishing stuff. So if we got a sword, we push the finish to be like stabbing or slicing, right? Or maybe we don't want to kill them. Maybe we put a choke on, or maybe we put a joint lock on, or do some kind of like a control move, you know, or put it against them and if you crazy, they kill themselves, right? So that kind of stuff. If it sticks, you can choke them out, throw them, break their arms, or things like that. All that's optional stuff. And that's where there's 1,000 martial arts, 1,000 cool things that people think about. But all of them, you have to close the distance. All of them, you got to get close enough to do stuff. And that person's going to keep trying to attack you and doing stuff to you without taking damage. So they're not just going to be like in the Bujinkan, they say, well, to be a good uke, you just give them the attack. It's a committed attack. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. Probably, you know, fighting is every attack when people are actually fighting you, they just throw themselves at you 100% every time, or are they like also trying to guard themselves? Yeah. Everyone's trying to guard themselves. No one's like I'm going to commit an attack. Nobody wants to get hurt. No one wants to get hurt, so they're trying to hurt you without being hurt. So the committed attack bullshit is just that. It's just someone who's never been in an actual fight. When you're in an actual fight, people are like trying to protect themselves and stay out of your range while getting you in theirs. So that's the whole goal of this whole thing. So right now we're doing like one-on-one. So you know we're doing, but really you gotta always keep in mind, man, it's always multiple attackers. But first, you can't handle one. You're certainly not going to handle 2 or 10. So you gotta handle 1. Does it make sense? Good. So let's go back to doing this, and let's do Utodori swords, and we're going to try to get to a close to finish. So, what you're going to have to, so you're going to do Utodori, okay? And I'm going to do this. So we'll do it. We'll just draw the sword. So we're going to be like, choo choo kind of thing, right? So as she does that, so I go. Okay, she's going to get into position now. I figure out she's on the first people. She got shoulder control right there. So now, and with the technique that you want. It doesn't have to be a jump. There. Just you're going to pick a technique. You want to throw, choke. So remember, choke. There's chokes, throws, joint locks, and strikes.
Atamajime.
So she's going to choke me. So remember, she got choked and also to be able to control my sword from getting her while she's choking. Does that make sense? Okay, everybody practice that. Okay, so it's Utodori. So you're unarmed against a sword. You got to get control, get to a place, because remember, the guy with the sword is still going to try to get you, and you got to get to choke on. So you got to get control, even though they have a sword. Let's try that. So what are you guys discovering?
Yes.
Anybody getting to the choke?
Yes.
Okay, how are you getting to the choke? We can do it. Can you show me what you're doing real quick? Sure. It doesn't matter if it's good. You gotta see what I'm doing? Yeah, I want to see how you get to what you're doing. Where you're trying to partner. Try to do it over here in front of the camera, so that might come back this way. Okay, good. That's good idea, right? So I won't drop out of the So notice how he bent him backwards to get into the choke, right? So what is everybody on the planet going to fight? Being bent backwards. Everybody's going to be bent backwards. So you attack, you try to do something there?
Um,
Yeah. The same. Yeah, same pattern, right? So now, good. So what did she do? So she paused a minute so you guys can really see and illustrate the thing that's going on. What did she do? Forward.
Sideways.
Twist. She.
I didn't. No, I shouldn't say that in the concept.
So instead of trying to do report of it, so he's like this. Instead of trying to pull someone who's, there's a reflex you have. When you take a baby, you have to bring this reflex in it. That stays for your whole life. It's very, very strong. You try to do this, push someone's chest and push their hips. You try to do it. You're not going to go anywhere. Okay, this is quite strong and it's a reflex. So what she did instead is she took that reflex and added to it a little bit and went boom and loaded it up. At this moment, her body is trying to uncoil out of this. So she took his hips and just went boom. Now, even if he's way taller than you, the choke comes on here. Does that make sense? So can I borrow this, Alex? So again, she was here. So she's like, draw, boom, coming in like this. This goes, doom, doom. See how then you can take the blade. Depends on the kind of blade you got. You got to blade easy. You can put the choke on with the sword, or you can put the choke on without the sword. And notice I'm controlling the fingers here like this. Again, notice I'm going to use my hips so that he can't actuate his hips down there. And it's not stressful. There may be someone else coming to attack me, right? So maybe Paul comes, he's got the sword, and he comes to attack me, right? So he goes, sorry.
It's so good.
Does that make sense? Yeah. So how to get that? So slowly, let's look at that again. He draws, and I'm letting it draw come out. I have to be right in here. So if he comes back in, I'm just tap, and he's thinking he's getting me, and he goes just a little bit over as I drop in here. Now we've all done this kind of thing, right? Of course, he'd kill me right now. So I'm actually standing right here, and I get the shoulder control. So he wants to get to a place to cut me, so go ahead and fix your position. So even so how he does that, I'm just fighting with him. Remember, one finger pressure. And then load forward. Then load back. Now I can keep his hips pushed out here. I'm free so I can observe the area. Does this make sense? And of course, I can at any point be like, I can take this out, kill him if I wanted to, whatever you need to do. But that's it. You gotta bend him forward so he's loaded up and resisting. You want to create the resistance. And then use that resistance so that's not your power, it's their power. Everyone says, right, you use your opponent's power against them, right? How? That's how. Okay, so let's try that. You see moving from the beginning to the middle to the end. And however long the middle is, that fluctuates a lot, right? But once you get in close, did everybody have some success getting to this choke? Yeah. Did you run into any other obstacles? Anything else that you noticed in the course of this?
Yep.
What?
That's someone moving much faster than I can counter.
Okay, so what do you do when someone's moving much faster than you? How do you slow them down? Do? So the answer of strike them, into them, good luck. What if they're much better ass than you are? Run.
Yeah.
So here's the rule. Like I said, you can't use more power, you can't use more speed. That's it. That can't use more power, can't use more speed. So you gotta be less than them. You have to position, you have to control what they can do. To control what they can do. Ray, can I write this down? So if Ray comes in, he does some kick or punch, whatever you want to do, right? What's he got to do right now? Again, I got one finger pressure. He's got to move over there. I don't care how fast he is, he's got to move over there. Okay? So now, give me a series of attacks, right? Oh, what did I do? Yeah, how much pressure did I use? Hardly anything. It was like did I even try and dodge? No, I just why? Because he can move as fast as he wants. Once you disrupt his center, he's got to fix himself to generate power. If he tries to punch me from this position, it's got nothing on it. So he will fix himself. Everybody fixes themselves once you break their command. This is called Kuzushi. position. Once you break it, you have to fix it. So if you learn to use one finger's pressure in these spaces, they have to fix themselves. While they're fixing themselves, you move to the next thing. Now here's the trick. You gotta learn where they gotta go. So just remember, right? So just for example, he throws a right punch. Just say it's a right punch. Okay, and I've done this. What's coming next right now? What's coming next? Okay, so I already know the left is coming, so go ahead and left. He's gonna go there every single time. Every single time. So give me a right now. So he goes, oh, that way. Okay. So boom. What's he doing next, guys?
Reset.
He's gonna reset. He's gonna reset. So we're gonna reset. And what's he gonna do from here? He's gonna throw his punch. I know it. You know it. You know it. So what do you gotta do? You gotta move to take control of that. You know what's coming. I mean, yes, maybe he decides to do a front roll and get okay, good. Maybe he takes a step and does a double backflip over your head and kicks you while trying to the air, like in the movies. But probably not. He is. He is, right? So again, maybe he punches here, it's the same thing. Right, so as he punches, he's going to go a little bit that way. Now he's set right here. So as he does the next attack, boom! Sorry about that. Right? And I just disrupted him. So can he punch me from here? No. So what does he do? Boom! So it goes in there. So what does he do next? Can he punch from there? No. Right? So he's going to keep fixing himself. I can strike, or I can just be like, I'm not going to do that for a fight, of course. But for training, you need to practice doing that so you understand. So even if he's much faster than me, it doesn't matter. Because he's got to move 2 or 3 times more than me. And all I have to do is try to keep changing an angle. So we talk about the martial art of distance, right? Mind. So mind is time and space. So again, if I'm here, Ray can drill me quite well. So at this distance, which is basically my arm length away, he can get me good. But if I'm here, guess what? I could be here. He can't get me. So it's not how distant away I am from him. It's my relative position to him. Does that make sense? So also, if I'm here, yeah, he can touch me with this. But if I go here, so don't move your feet. Okay. And just reach that hand. But we're not touching here. He already did this. So the next thing is there. So he can't get me. So he's got to reset. He's got to move. Now he may turn and come out and do something, or he may do something that's not very powerful. But just knowing that I'm here, so as he goes to do whatever and do next thing. So I can let him touch me. Why? Because as it's going, so do that again. So as punch goes, sorry. See how this little bit. So even as punch and he goes. That's his power. That's not my power. Just using that. So understanding if you can make contact, so you got these things on there. These are the disruptions in the middle. And then as you go very fast. So you end up with something. You do next one. Yeah. Now we're here. So I get him up. So he's going to fix it. Maybe he wants to kick or something like that. So he'll do it one. So now we're in this position here. We can start to get into the choke thing again. Doesn't matter. Whatever your finish thing is, what do you like to do? Maybe you want to like pull guard on. It's that disruption along the way. Make sense? Okay, so we're going to take a break. But I got a special guest here. So you guys, most of you know that I do health consulting and stuff in Japan. And I've been in fitness and nutrition for a long time. And I've been through all, vegetarianism, veganism, paleo, low carb, high carb, you name it, and tested all these different things out. But just like I'm looking for, what is the most important step we need in our Budo? Like where the rubber meets the road? What is the thing that you need to spend most of your time on? Nutrition has a similar kind of thing. And also the idea that although I live in Japan and I'm training full time for a lot of years, I spend 4 to 6 hours training martial arts 6 days a week for a lot of years. No one else can do that. You're lucky if you get 4 to 6 hours a week. Most people are not. They're doing 2 hours. You know what I'm saying? So what can you do when you don't have enough time to eat perfectly? Well, let's be honest. You're human beings, and human beings are going to eat a lot of food. and we want to do good food sometimes and we just enjoy it. So Joel, do you want to come up for this? Joel is like, I don't want to say idiot savant, he's just a savant, right? For nutrition, health, and so he has a system on it. I'll let you talk right now. So we're super lucky to have that here. I've been doing this system for quite a while. So.
I would lean towards the idiot, but and so I wrote this book, and this book called The Immunity Code, and it came out of my experiences over a number of years under real life situations where you have a job, and here's some of what you guys are doing here. You all have livelihoods and different things to do, and over time, what you see is that you're trying different things and you're trying different pieces of advice and you implement them. And when you really kind of watch what's happening over the very long term, it's really not going in the direction you just want it to go. And so I wrote this book that kind of was, at its essence, trying to create a better to-do list, really like a better list of boxes to check off. And the net of it really is this, that the things that ultimately really run the show in the body are always immune mechanisms, always things that touch on the immune system. So these are a lot of big words, a lot of things, but things like what's called a macrophage, which is an immune cell, and different kinds of signals, and those ultimately have a lot of control over things like inflammation, weight, and aging, and all things like that care about. So the challenge was to take all that stuff and make it something that people could do in the real world. And in that context, when we track what happens over decades with people who are interested in taking care of themselves, interested in keeping their body lean and healthy, and all these things, what happens is you get to a place where you apply some advice, and that's the first problem, because most of that advice that we're getting, it's fiction. It's not based in any reality that anybody actually lives in. And I just say this based on experience. Like I personally know it's fiction, okay? Like I've been in that world a long time and I know a lot. And I can just tell you that. I mean, I know a lot about behind the scenes. I can say that what we typically consume advice from are very bodybuilder-esque sort of like, examples telling us what to do and all that. And the first problem we run into is that's what typically said advice giver makes their living doing. They're paid to do that. They're paid to be fit in essence, okay? And like if being fit with your full-time job or being healthy with your full-time job, then you have all your time dedicated to that. But that's not the reality most people live in. The reality most people live in is all your time has to go somewhere else, and then you're using whatever's left. And so if we just get real about what happens over time, since you're using what's left, typically that goes to zero quite often and for long periods, like over the course of life. Like you'll have a season where, maybe you change jobs and you're having to travel a lot, or maybe you get audited and you got to take 6 months to go get all your receipts, or you have a newborn and you're just not sleeping. That's real life for most people. So what happens over time for most people is that they will go apply some advice, and because they're not paid to be fit, you don't make your living being fit, you'll get a result initially, but you can't sustain it because that's not what you do for a living. So, eventually time takes over and all the things you were doing you can't do because they're too time intensive. And then what happens is very often you'll see over time, you kind of see this upward trend that looks like this, okay? And the downward part are these trips to the, I'm getting in shape well. And then this part is, I don't have time. And I'm going to get in shape, I don't have time. And so over time, what you're seeing is this, okay? So long story short, I wrote this book that was really trying to address all of those things and make it simple for most people. And the gist of it really is that if we take a look at the simplest things we could possibly apply, those would be related to the immune system. And if we come up with ways to make it super simple and super easy, then we've got a little bit more. It's very much like fighting in a sense. Like in a real fight, there's scenarios that present themselves. Rob was talking about like a jiu-jitsu guy, and he's got a guy in a choke, and then comes up and kicks him. And the jiu-jitsu guy's like, "What's that?" Well, it's like that could happen. You know, there could be 2 guys, there could be 3 guys that are kicking you. That could happen. What's the plan? And so taking that same sort of thinking, like what's the plan for real situations? A plan that has a really good shot of working is that during these seasons when you have no time, you basically just need a strategy to maintain. It's going to keep you more or less level, you know, or at the very worst, there's a slight sort of, you know, slope to it, meaning like, you know, you're putting on some weight or you're getting, you know, a little less healthy, but it's not dramatic, okay? And then invariably, you're gonna have these seasons where you decide I'm gonna really focus on getting healthy and getting in shape and have a little more time, and then you really go at it there, okay? So a more realistic strategy is during the no time seasons, let's take this slope that looks like this and let's bring it to here. We're not gonna make massive improvements during those seasons, okay? Like sometimes maintaining is just great. But then it inevitably comes some time where I've got to put a little more time and energy into taking care of myself, and then you can do the get in shape thing and all that, okay? So as strategies go, that's a little bit better strategy. The question is what goes into that. So long story short, I'm just gonna walk you guys through a series of like pretty simple steps that compromise basically like a to-do list. And it's the cool thing about this is it's not going to replace anything you're doing. It's just more of like a foundation. It's something that you can do during those seasons, and you can make it a part of your life. And the net of these things is that you're going to find a number of areas, not just one, but a number where you really do see massive improvements in different measures. So you'll see improvements in things like sleep, you'll see improvements in things like energy, you'll see improvements in things like your gut, body fat, all these things, not really much effort. And all of this is designed during those seasons when, you know, real life hits, and sometimes they last for years, you know, and I've been in this. I've been in seasons, you know, literally, true story. What led to me writing this book was I had a season from 2003 to 2005 where I went to work for this company, and when I went to work for them, I was really lean, I was in great shape, you know, very healthy. And I was working 15 hours a day, super high stress job, and the company's growth rate looked like that, and my weight looked like that, right next to it. So I went from like 212 to 260 in 3 years on this job. Just I'm doing, you know, 15-hour days, high stress, all that. So that whole sort of season led me to really rethink a lot of things. Because prior to that, I'd done 30 years of the fitness stuff. I've done all that stuff. You know, I knew all that stuff. But it didn't really help me when I was, you know, analogy would be I was on the ground choking someone and 4 guys were kicking. So everything I knew didn't really work. Okay. So I needed something better. So let me just kind of start with like a list of things. And in this, what we're trying to do is just create a better to-do list that's going to help you with things that are going to really matter over time. So there's 3 basic abilities that, and by the way to think of this is very much like fighting this. Think of it like abilities. So we don't really think of like, you know, health maintenance as an ability or a skill. You know, mostly we think of it as a diet or we're going to do some practice, but really it's more like an ability. It's more like a skill. So there's 3 really foundational abilities. The first is the power to age slower. Okay, how to age slower, and it's actually a skill set you can learn. The next is how to eat. What I mean by how to eat is how to understand what food's going to do and how to time, how to buy it, how to do things with food that are simple and make a big difference. And then finally, it's how to control your fat. And all those three things together really play a lot over time in terms of like our bodies and our bodies, the way our bodies age or whether or not, you know, so that's kind of the big picture, but let's start with the gut. And it's interesting in my field, what I do is I've never seen so many people with gut problems as I have in the last 2 years. Like literally every 3rd person has some gut issue, some bloating, some dysbiosis, something. And I can tell you what's causing it. What's causing it is this sort of popularity or popularizing of things that I think are healthy. A lot of like excess intermittent fasting or keto diets, carnivore diets, probiotics, all that stuff. So there's a couple basic principles to get in your mind. One is a picture of a sine wave that looks like this. So for the camera here, it looks like that. And basically, this is how everything works. So everything works like this, where in the beginning, oh my gosh, this is amazing, this is great, it works, I've solved the problem. And then you reach a point where suddenly it's not working so great, and then it doesn't work at all. And then eventually there's negatives to the thing. That thing that solved your problem, if you give it long enough, 3, 4, 5 years, there's negatives to that thing. Okay? I'll take fasting for an example. So fasting is like this big craze, everybody's jumped on it, and there's tons of benefits to fasting. It's like the only proven way to overcome age slower. The problem with it is nobody's really talking about what happens if you do it too much. So fasting is just a word for starvation. That's all we're talking about here. And starvation, the body knows that. The body's done that for, thousands and thousands of years. So the body has all these defenses against starvation. The purpose of those defenses is so you don't die when there's no food. And that's what fasting is. You're not eating. So not eating, the body doesn't get the hip word. In fact, I don't know what you mean fasting, but the body does know what starvation is. So the body has a reaction to sustained deprivation of food. And over time, like what you'll see is, you start fasting, you see all these benefits, I'm getting lean, I feel so much energy, I feel fantastic. And then you give it 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And then all of a sudden it starts to be like, oh man, I don't have any hunger in the morning, I can't lose weight now, and my gut's not stuff. What's going on? Well, what's going on is there's all these starvation defense mechanisms in the body. A lot of them have been activated, and then you got too much of a good thing. So the highest truth of biology is that basically it's a very Zen idea. It's that balance is the highest truth of biology. So when you look at anything, it doesn't matter what it is, antioxidants, red meats, water, anything you can think of, if you have too little of it, it's probably a bad thing. If you have too much of it, it's equally bad. That's true of anything in biology. I'll take antioxidants, for example. So have you heard of what's called oxidative stress? Okay. It means like free radicals. It means like, your body's, typically we're getting older, our body's making more free radicals, okay, damages your tissues, right? Has anybody heard of reductive stress? No, it's because nobody ever talks about it, okay? It's just as bad. Reductive stress is too many antioxidants, and it causes as much damage as free radical stress. So we have this idea that, free radicals are bad, and therefore antioxidants are good. But the truth is something more like too many antioxidants is really bad, too many free radicals is bad, somewhere right in the middle is pretty good. And that's true of absolutely everything. Absolutely everything, you're gonna find that's true. So we live in this era where these fads come along, we all get sucked into a fad, we do them too long, too much, and next thing you know, you give it a couple of years, you have these benefits, but most people 5, 6, 7 years down the road experience negatives, lots of negatives. And they try to figure out what happened. That's my story. In the early 90s, I was doing this meal replacement called Metrex, I was doing 1 meal a day, and intermittent fasting, and got really lean from it, and looked great, thought I had the answers. And then right about 5 years later, I just found myself parking at Burger King going, I can't stop eating, what is this? Well, it was because of body starvation effects, okay? So let's start with just creating a to-do list here. So the first thing in the to-do list is that the gut is an interface. It's where the outside world comes into the body. Okay, we take in the outside world. And that's a challenge because there's foreign matter inside our bodies. And the way that works is our body has to kind of sample like the stuff that's good and push out the stuff that's bad. So it's very, very complex what has to happen there. And if that's not sort of like really working optimally, then it's very hard for anything else to work. It's very hard to have health if that's not working optimally. So when we're little babies, there are these compounds in mother's milk. There are these little sugars in mother's milk. It's called human milk polysaccharides. And these are sugars that are present when we get mom's milk. And in mom's milk is bacteria. So as babies, we get this really good bacteria called bifidobacteria, strains of bifidobacteria, and it comes packaged together with these really cool sugars that jumpstart the immune system, okay? And it's just contained in breast milk. So we live in an age now where it's very easy to do a couple minor things that can help the gut dramatically. Now, it's not going to work on everybody because there are a lot of conditions out there, things like gut dysbiosis, things like Crohn's, things like SIBO, and I've seen a lot of it nowadays. But for the average person, they'll benefit tremendously from 3 simple steps. The first is that you combine 3 things. One would be just apple skins, okay? Skins and apples. The reason is the skins on apples, they feed a key bacteria in the gut And that bacteria is the one that maintains the gut lining. It's called Akkermansia mucineolica. And it's very hard to feed this bacteria. Certain types of polyphenols feed it, but also fasting feeds it. And that's one of the reasons too much fasting screws your gut up is when you're fasting for very long periods, you get too much Akkermansia and the gut lining wears down from that. So it's like this. Too little Akkermansia is a really bad thing. Too much is not a good thing. Right in the middle is fantastic. Most people have too little. Most people have too little. So the good news is in about 3 to 5 days, you can completely optimize it. You can take it from nothing to here. And what you'll notice by doing that is cravings go away. The reason is, does anybody struggle with night cravings? Good? Yeah, okay. So night cravings very often, not always, but very often, are the result of different types of bacteria in the gut that basically have hijacked your vagus nerve, and they're telling you to feed them. So when you go to sleep, they can make more. And so they want you to give, feed me a cookie, feed me this. And so those cravings at night, when you get rid of these types of bacteria, the cravings go away. And I've seen it happen many, many times. So the first step is apple skins. Apple skins are really good at feeding this bacteria, Akkermansia. And then you combine that with what's called red phenols or red phenol powder. Tons of products on the market for this. It's just powder that's made from raspberries and blackberries and things like that. Just type in red phenol powder. What red phenols do is they feed both bifidobacteria and Akkermansia. So there's a lot of talk about the gut these days. I'm sure you guys have probably heard a lot about the gut. Okay. The immunity code is based really in trying to simplify it down so that if there's 2 bacteria that we can focus on. We can focus on Akkermansia, we can focus on bifidobacteria. It's very easy to feed those 2. And by feeding those 2, we'll feed everything else. And it's very simple, it's very quick, easy to do. So basically by combining apple skins, like skins of 1 to 4 to 5 apples, combine that with red phenols, and then combine that with a little bit of what are called these human milk oligosaccharides. You find them in baby food. You can find them on Amazon. It's just looks like a little powder. You put like a gram or 2 of that, and you can make a shake out of it. And then doing that intermittently, a couple times a week, or doing it for about 10 days, what you'll find is you completely recolonize the gut. And I have heard insane testimonials on this, like, nothing else worked. This is the first thing that's ever worked for me. My gut issues are gone. The bloating stopped. I couldn't lose weight. And the results are dramatic because these 2 sets of bacteria control vast swaths of the immune system, massive packs of the immune system. They're involved in antigen sensing in the gut. So remember, the gut, we take foreign things in the body. The immune system has to kick in immediately every time you eat. The immune system has to differentiate with the foods, and it's doing sampling of antigens from foods that you eat, and making decisions about did we attack, did we not. And so these bacteria are intimately involved in sensing stuff. And so they have this massive reward for taking them in. What they do is they optimize the gut, they help the immune system kind of reset where it should be. And things that you'll notice typically is like your energy goes really up. It's wow, my energy's through the roof. What is this? It's B vitamin production. These bacteria make B vitamins, and they're very good at insulin working. They help insulin a ton. So as we get older, we all start to kind of look a little bit like diabetics, meaning that we start to get a little resistant to insulin. We need insulin to basically make energy from the sugar in our blood. These bacteria help that. Okay. So first step, 3 simple things: red polyphenols, apple skins, and these things called HMOs. Very inexpensive, easy to do, and you can use this as a sort of let's call it hack that you can incorporate into your daily routine. That to do this takes like literally 2 minutes, like a minute to do this. Okay, so that's the first thing. Okay, this addresses like a lot. Like here's the swath of problems in the gut. This is probably addressing about that much. There's still problems, okay, that are more complex, but this fixes a lot of things for most people. The next thing is we need to do 2 things. We need to increase your airflow, the amount of oxygen you're getting, okay, particularly during sleep, and we need to decrease the amount of hypoxia that your body is enduring. Meaning, does anybody here have issue with snoring? Don't raise your hand. Okay, I'm grateful. All right. So it's very common nowadays to find issues of hypoxia while we're sleeping. Meaning, as we get older, the facial structure starts to collapse. The bone formation in the face starts to collapse. The airway starts to shrink. The palate shrinks. We just take in less air, and at the same time, we begin to have obstruction issues. So when we're sleeping, we're actually in a hypoxic state. That's bad. That's really, really bad. The reason is every known cancer has something to do with excess hypoxia in your body, excess hypoxia in your cells. Has anybody ever been to like the hospital where they put you on like a pulse ox reading and you can see your measures? Has anybody ever done that? Okay. So the pulse oximeter is showing you your blood oxygen saturation. Okay. Well, all that's really telling you is the amount of hemoglobin in the blood that's bound to oxygen, but it's not telling you the tissue saturation. What happens is you can have a reading of 91 and think, oh, that's pretty good. That's not bad. 91 must be good, right? Well, what happens is as you get to 90 and 89, the tissue saturation drops off like that. It's not linear. Okay, so as your pulse ox is getting down to 90, 91, 90 during sleep, 89, tissue saturation does this. So you get into like 80, 90, 89, 88, the tissue saturation is like 50%. Okay, so the body has a backup system for no food. It's called body fat. So it's designed to keep you alive when you have no food. The body has a backup system for when you have no air. Okay, it's called HIF1, and it's designed to keep you alive when there's no oxygen. The problem is that one only works for a couple minutes. Okay, body fat will last for weeks and months, but your backup system for no oxygen is limited to about a few minutes. So it's a big, big deal at a cellular level. So in terms of the bang for the buck, the least amount of effort, the most return that we can get, getting you to oxygenate better, and getting you to spin out hypoxia is one of the most powerful things you can ever do. And it's literally life-changing when you do this, okay? So 4 simple steps. The first step is called the Seattle Protocol. Super simple. Has anybody heard of breathe rights, those nasal strips? Okay. So number 1, you just put some breathe rights on your nose. Okay, so while you're sleeping, it opens up the nostrils and you oxygenate much, much better while you're sleeping. Okay. The next thing is you wear a piece of tape over your mouth. You wear it kind of a little Hitler mustache right over your lips. Okay. You oxygenate the brain much better. Most immediate effect of this is that, does anybody in here struggle with getting up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night? Anybody struggle with that one? Maybe a few people? Many times, okay. You will stop that immediately, the first night. The first night, it goes away. Immediately. Most people report they don't go to the bathroom consistently. They wake up much more energized. You actually sleep about 20 to 30 minutes less. It's because you're getting more oxygen in, you're oxygenating better. Okay. Does anybody know the primary purpose of sleep? Have you ever thought about that? Let's harvest ideas here.
To repair your cells.
Prepare your cells. Okay. Anything else?
The mind, isn't something about like oxygen close the brain, kind of like
Clear out gunk in the brain. Yeah, amyloid plaques and all that. Okay. So the primary purpose of sleep is to make ATP. Have you guys heard of ATP? Adenosine triphosphate. So this is kind of a crazy thing to think about. Your daily requirement for ATP, which is the primary sugar molecule that runs your body, is your body weight. Wherever you weigh, that's how much you need in ATP every day. It's a fact. It's a fact. Do you eat that every day? Do you eat your body weight every day? No. So where do you make it? How do you make that much ATP? Breathing. Breathing is how you make that much ATP. Okay? And the reason you need all that ATP to run your body, all that sugar to run your body, is every cell needs ATP, needs tons of ATP to do what it's got to do, which is make proteins, do all these things to keep your body young and all that. If you don't, it's kind of like a factory. If we had a factory that was run by robots and we cut the power into the factory, we have to start turning robots on, right? We have to cut back. Well, your cells work the same way. So your cells need an income flow. Their income is ATP. ATP is the money that the cell uses. When funds are thin, we got to turn the lights off. We got to turn the robots off. Can't make Teslas. That's how important ATP is. That's what sleep does. Sleep replaces ATP because the body's stable. You're in a breathing pattern. You're making ATP like crazy. Okay. So getting you more airflow while you're sleeping helps you to replete ATP, and that is one of the most powerful health things you could ever do. Okay. Now, an additional step on this. So summing this one up, very simple. It's just a piece of tape here, and it's a piece of tape here. And you're gonna make like a 20-foot. This is one of those things that I'm getting at now, which is we don't get paid to be fit. Okay, so in the real world, we need things that give us an advantage. This will give you a 30% advantage over your life. Like if you do this starting tonight, and half this room did it, half this room didn't, you know, we could literally track like a number of pathologies just going right off the map on the people that didn't do it from this one thing. It's that important, okay? And the next thing that we can add with this is learning how to clear hypoxia, okay? Hypoxia is basically our cells can stabilize. They can stabilize hypoxia even when you have adequate oxygen. And so when you have hypoxia that's built up over time, it can clear it, okay? So a really simple trick, you guys can all try this week. It's incredible how this works. You'll feel like you drank 12 cups of coffee, is you wake up, you fast for a few hours, 2, 3, maybe 4 hours max. At the end of that, you're going to take two things. You're going to take 50 milligrams approximately of niacin, the flushing kind of, the kind that makes you tingle of niacin. There's two kinds. There's non-flushing, you don't want that. You want the flushing kind, okay? So you can take the flushing niacin, and then you're going to take 25, 50 milligrams of zinc with that, and you're going to wait. You're going to wait until the peak of the flush hits you, your face is deep red, okay? Like it kind of has a curve. Don't do it at the onset, you wait for the peak. Wait for the peak of the flush, and then you're going to do what's called a 4-axis rotation, okay? And so basically it just looks like this. You're going to start here, and you'll get in this position, and you'll naturally take 3 deep breaths. You'll just naturally just be like, and then you're going to rotate on your side, and you repeat. And just you'll find that you're naturally taking the breaths. You don't have to actually force it. They'll come. The breaths are hypoxia clearing. Then you'll do it on your back like this. It's just a spin drive, basically, what we're doing. And then you'll rotate to here, and you'll repeat. And then you'll sit up, and you'll take 3 more breaths. And then at the end of that, you'll be ready to mow the lawn. I mean, you'll be ready. You'll feel extremely energized at the end of that. Okay, and it's like I like things that are easy to prove and simple to do. And so that's a simple thing that has massive impact. You don't want to do it that often. You don't want to take niacin all the time. Too much niacin. Not enough niacin is terrible. That's called pellagra. Too much niacin is not good either. It messes up insulin. But right about here, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good thing. So this is something you can do once a week, a couple times a month, intermittently. But if you combine this with the basic breathing protocol that I'm talking about, it's amazing. Okay, it works really well. Now to take this and make it even better, and by the way, all this leads into the gut. So to optimize the gut needs to be clear of hypoxia. We can't really address the gut without clearing hypoxia. So that was the additional step. There's one more step, and that's vitamin D. Okay, so vitamin D is needed for the gut to work optimal. So with vitamin D, there's 2 ways to do this. I like to take it at bedtime, and I'll take a lot, like 15,000 IUs. What I find it's good for is, as you're getting older, your testosterone drops, and nothing is more powerful than vitamin D. Vitamin D, when you're sleeping, will kick your testosterone to the roof. I had a client last year, he's 68, you know, put him on this vitamin D and a few other things, and, you know, he was I can't use it in this room, but he was doing great. Just put it this way, from his sleep, okay? So I like to take it at bedtime. Vitamin D can disrupt melatonin, so I'll take it with melatonin, and I'll take whatever my dose level is. And so that's how I like to do it. If it disrupts your sleep and you're finding it's an issue, then you want to take it in the morning, okay? And so take it in the morning, roughly 15 to 20,000 IUs. And what you'll find with that combination of things, so we just so far hit on a few things for the gut, hypoxia, and then vitamin D. What you'll find is that you're making very powerful changes that take absolutely no time, that give you like a very big percentage increase over time in terms of measurable things like your sleep quality, your level of energy, your body fat, the gut, and all that stuff. So are you guys starting to kind of get this? It's a different to-do list. Okay, like I haven't got to exercise yet. I haven't got to anything yet. I'm just going down from the gut to oxygen. Okay, and a few things. Okay, so next thing on this list is over time. What happens is our bodies get very stiff. They get very, very stiff over time. And so you guys will appreciate that if you're into martial arts, so you kind of have to work on that. So there's a couple things that play into this. One thing that plays into it is that as we're getting older, a funny thing's happening. Muscle is getting fat inside of it. It's kind of like if you've seen, grass-fed beef versus grain-fed beef, you see that there's more fat in the grain-fed beef. Over time, we're starting to look more like the grain-fed beef, and that's a big problem because as we're getting older, what's happening is cells are dying and they're not being flushed out. So they're sending all these signals. They're sending all these signals out that are inflammatory. And so as we're getting older, what happens is the more of these senescent cells that we have in place inside our muscle, muscle doesn't renew. So you find this cycle starts to happen where it's harder to keep your muscle. It's easier to gain fat. A lot of that has to do with fat inside of muscle. Okay, so there's a couple of easier fixes for this. They're not 100%. There's no 100% fix for anything. We're all going to get old and die. But what we can do is push the door. That's what we can do. And the easier, the better. So a couple of ways that we can keep muscle young and keep the body nice and lean and supple is just to incorporate a couple of things throughout the day. Okay. So the big problem that we're up against is it's just much easier to take in energy than it is to expend it in this bubble that we live in called civilization. Okay, and civilization is fantastic. Like, try going without a hot shower or couches or a refrigerator for a month. And you'll be loving civilization. I mean, it's head and toes above the other option, which is roughing it. Okay, however, the advantage of roughing it is it's much easier to expend energy and much harder to take it in. So that fundamental equation has been changed. So the problem, there's two problems we're running across. We need to find a way to put more motion back in the day, more movement back in the day, back into our day, in a scenario where we have no time. That's what we need to do. Okay. So there's a concept that I put in the book called the integrated interval, which is really just about. I heard one guy try and rebrand it as microdosing exercise, but basically it's getting really good at one thing over 90 days and just seeing how far you can take it. Just doing that one thing and doing it in intervals of 15 to 20 seconds across your day and watching where 90 days takes you in that one thing. And then picking something else, and then just staying on this, okay? So let me give you some examples. The first time I did this, I put it to test, I tried pull-ups. And I'm embarrassed to say, I went to do a pull-up and I kind of crapped out at 4. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that was that bad. Within 3 weeks, I was doing 20, okay? I went to this nutritional show, and it's one of these things where everybody's selling their supplements. You guys ever been to one of those?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, everything's essential. You go to 1,000 booths, and everything's essential. But one of these guys, they had a pool bar there, and I walked by. They're like, "Come on, you want to do it?" I'm like, "Okay, fine, I want it." Okay, over guys half my age, because I just did them every day. So anything you do every day, you're gonna get really good at. The trick is, for most of us, we have real jobs, and this idea of going to the gym, it doesn't work for us. And the analogy I use in my book is: imagine if you tried to take care of your teeth by only going to the dentist. You didn't do daily maintenance. You didn't brush your teeth. So going to the dentist 3 times a week was the way you did it. It would work as long as you had the time to go 3 times a week. It worked. Okay. So you go to the dentist, spend an hour, they give you cleaning, you're all good. You wouldn't need to do daily brushing. You really would. The problem is eventually you wouldn't be able to eke off that hour to go to the dentist 3 times a week. Okay. So you need something like taking care of your teeth, but for your body. And so I call it the integrated interval. Really, you guys can call it whatever you want, but it's this basic idea of number one, no warm up. Number two, you do it for 20 to 30 seconds, and then you go right back to what you're doing. Number three, okay? And you intersperse it throughout your day. And the other thing is you start small. You start with like maybe one interval, and the next day maybe two, maybe the first week two, the next week three, the next week four. The goal is 90 days. And so you pick a movement, it could be push-ups, could be pull-ups, could be a wall squat, could be. I had one girl, her thing was she couldn't touch her toes, and by the end of it, she had her plums on the ground. Okay, just by doing it every single day. So and that's the challenge for us, is to basically, what you're up against as you're getting older is your circulation shutting down. Your blood vessels are constricting. They're more inflammatory by their very nature. And we need to figure out ways to open the blood vessels back up, okay? Because everything else is gonna go down when we do that. So the integrated interval gets you doing that. It's a simple way to do it. So I think of one we could do right now that would be good. When I did this in a live thing, we actually did a handstand against the wall. I don't know if I did this much here. So I'll tell you what, let's just do a plank for 20 seconds, all of us, 30 seconds. We're just gonna jump into it. Okay, and just ready to go. So, it's no big deal. 20 seconds. So one way to use the integrated interval is to just start small with 20 seconds, and then over 90 days, see what you can work up to. And see where you're at. Most of you within 90 days, you probably get 5 minutes, no problem. Where right now, 20 seconds is no big deal, but 2-3 minutes could be a real problem. It'd be really tough. Okay, that's it. We're done. We'll go back to work. So the trick here is not to make it hard. The more you make it hard, the less likely you are to continue. But if you had 2-3 sessions in your day where you just, you stopped what you're doing, did that, and went back. So I have about 4 or 5 things I do in my day. I'll be working. I'll get up, I'll just do some sprints kind of in place. I'm done. I'll do push-up, I'll do a handstand against the wall. I'm doing these all throughout the day. Okay. So that, and I'm going to combine one more thing with that. Has anybody heard of molecular hydrogen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
I made her take it.
Okay.
Every other day.
All right. So there's this thing called hydrogen, molecular hydrogen. It has a lot of things that it does that are beneficial. One of the things it does is it prevents fat from getting stored within muscle as we get older. And it's selective. It's an antioxidant, but it's selective. It only goes where it needs to go. So it's not, remember, too little antioxidants not good, too many not good right here. It seems to be right here. So on days where you're not doing the hypoxia thing, you can add in a little molecular hydrogen into your morning when you're fasting. So you wake up, maybe fast for 3 or 4 hours, take some molecular hydrogen, a small tablet, you put it in a glass of water, you wait till it looks all cloudy, and then you drink it. Okay?
Just don't breathe in. Then you go to drinking.
Yeah, exactly. So, so molecular hydrogen is a great way to, a non-time intensive way to keep the muscles kind of toned, combine that with the integrated interval. Again, coming back to this idea, during these seasons when we have no time, what we're looking at here is maintaining. And so what I'm giving you guys is a laundry list of things that are affecting oxygenation, the gut, muscles, okay, that take no time. Does this make sense to you guys? Okay. Let's talk about food really quick here. So you'll hear a lot about food in terms of different diets, and there's no diet, there's no one diet, you need an individualized diet, it's so freaking confusing. I just want to sum this up and make it as simple as I can for you guys. So first of all, to the idea that everybody needs an individualized diet, the simple big things are the most powerful effectors. The things that are common to everybody are the most powerful effectors. Meaning, like, if you want to move the chains down the field, what you'll find is the things that are common to everyone move the chains farthest. And then sometimes, to get the last 5 yards, we need like some individualization, some genomic stuff, but some things get you a long way. So one simple thing is that when it comes to fiber, it's quite common to have people that have issues with fiber. And that's because fiber works very much like a muscle. You have to slowly ramp the body up into handling it because it requires bacteria to handle the fiber. So as you're increasing the right bacteria, your ability to digest fiber increases as well. Your ability to digest fiber is not fixed. It's not static. It's flexible. It's like a muscle. So the longer and slower you take to condition the right bacteria in the body, like we talked about, the better you handle fiber. That being said, what you find is that the FDA only allows 2 claims for fiber. One of them is that it prevents cancer. So one thing is that we need fiber in the diet because fiber in the diet feeds the right bacteria in the best possible way. Okay, so let's start with that. What's a way we can get fiber in the diet? A simple way to do it, and it's super, super simple, is to give yourself a rotating system where one day you have some fibers, the next day you don't, and you lean a little bit more towards proteins and fats. It's really that simple. And a simple way to do it is stack types of fibers across your day. So the simplest sugars in the morning, that would be your berries, things like that. Those are fibers. Take those in the morning. The afternoon, starches, things that resist digestion. These are things like rice, things like garbanzo beans, black beans, potatoes, things like that. Include a little bit, not much, just a little bit in your diet, okay? And then evening is veggies, like cruciferous vegetables, things like that. Just a little bit in your diet. So you have a pattern of stacking these things. You have kind of the berries in the morning, starches in the afternoon, veggies in the night. You don't have to overdo it. You can just literally just like whatever you could fit inside here, begin to include in your diet, just a little bit. And go slowly over time. So that's a simple little, what that'll do over time is the best way to get the benefits of fasting is to mimic fasting. And the body has a lot of ways it can mimic fasting. One of the ways is with the right bacteria. The right bacteria mimic fasting. So by doing this, what you're doing is the day before a fast, you're actually increasing the right bacteria in the gut. And they mimic fasting, so you don't have to fast anymore. Okay. And again, really simple. Berries in the morning, resistant starch in the afternoon. Just try and add a little bit in. Just add a few beans in. Add a little bit of rice in. And just little bits. Start there. Get those things in the diet. They will build the right bacteria in your gut. And then the following day, fast for a little bit. Not long, just a few hours. Maybe do your molecular hydrogen. And then the rest of the day, you can have anywhere from 2 to 4 meals. If you want to do 2 big meals, you can do that. And just stay away from carbs that day. Okay? So one day you're having carbs, the next you're not. This will benefit you long term more than anything because insulin is the master hormone controlling our body's body fat, our body composition. And over time, it's like a muscle. If you don't train it, it gets weak. You have to train insulin to be really sharp, really strong. The way you train it is directly by giving it carbs and indirectly by giving it other things that stimulate other hormones that make insulin work. And the two work together really well. Okay. So that is just sort of a very simple, basic idea for diet that will serve you very well long term. And that way you get a wide variety of foods in your diet, you'll feed the gut, you get the benefits of fasting, you get to eat big meals, and you'll find it works very well for controlling weight without even trying to. So that's probably about all I have time for here, but hopefully some of this is helpful. And
So as we go back into, so now this last session today, because we're a little bit more tired, not super tired, but a little more tired, we can slow it down a little bit because we got to do the good stuff. There's also the time to look at like step-by-step mechanics, right? So let's go through a little bit of key on top. We're just gonna have a little bit of fun. So let's look at like omote gyaku. So just start with omote gyaku. I'll show you why. As an idea of like how to get around the body. So everyone already knows this kind of thing like that. Let's not do that. Let's go with the other hand. We're not worried about the plunge. It's not realistic at all. Remember that. When you're standing here, it's not realistic at all. But what we want to think about is, what are the pieces that make up something like doing omote gyaku? Well, what's the first thing that I'm going to have to do with omote gyaku? Get his hand off. What?
His hand off.
I got to get his hand off my shirt. And especially if I'm wearing a gi or a heavy jacket, that becomes much more problematic, right? So a lot of people are doing stuff like doing this. Of course, just winds that material in the shirt, never get it off. You got a guy like a belly strap, you're not going to get it off the strap. So we're going to move in a way that takes it off. So we're going to use this other hand. Remember, we want to be able to do this without like making power. So we're gonna come up to this gotcha-ten, the wrist gotcha-ten. So we're using the webbing of the hand, we're gonna come up in here, and we're gonna move it away that lets it come off like this. Come around, so at this point, when you've done this, you can put his hand on it, come up here and take it out. But from this, we're gonna actually start to push, you gotta find the right angle. I'm lifting and pushing with my thumb knuckle right into the fold of the wrist there. Do you feel like it squeeze or anything like that? Then what I'm doing is bringing myself forward till my shirt comes out the bottom of the hand. Bottom of the hand. It's not gonna come out through his fingers this way. It's not physically possible. And he's not so weak that the hand's gonna be like, oh, the shirt's so strong. Not gonna happen. Okay? So as we're doing this, there's also a function of like, how far out do I get his structure? See how his butt kind of poked out when I did that? Because I got a shoulder in front and he counterbalanced himself. Now, if I do something stupid like take a big step, he's also going to take a big step. So we all learn to take a big step. That won't work. I just need to go. See how I'm taking now? So then I just push off here, take it down like this, and I'm still using finger pressure. But I'm making this loop. See how the shoulder comes around? Now, you want to make sure you take this correctly. So I'm taking over the knuckles with my other hand and almost again. Of course, you can do lots of cool stuff with it, whatever you want. But let's just get this first piece. This is first piece. Try that. I'll come up. So make your groups. So everyone kind of got this, right? Most things, that's not rocket science. It's pretty simple. But now let's look at stringing this together. So if Paul multiple shirt here, right? So after omote gyaku, which is an outward spiral, then you move up to the elbow. Outward spiral elbow technique is mushidori. So how am I going to do mushidori? I'm going to do mushidori. So I'm going to go move. Now where's mushidori? I can do it here quite easy, right? But you also, as you pick it up like this, how am I going to get into it? So you can omote gyaku. And now you can see it's going to come in quite easily here. Does that make sense? To wrap this in for mushidori. So just looking at how to move, so you're just starting to learn the body. So as that stuff is happening, so you're like, whoa, see how it comes in like this? And again, going to Senotown. So what I mean by going to Senotown is, as this comes around, I can come up with the elbow, under the armpit, I can come up by the elbow. I can do it, let this go at this point. If I'm deep past the elbow, I can come here. Notice I'm coming all the way up to his shoulder. So I don't care what he does with his arm right now. But because he doesn't feel a threat on it, and actually he feels like he could probably do something to me right there, he may leave that there. And then it just keeps going around and like a vine creeping around and growing up until there's the mushidori. Does that make sense? So let's just try that. So you're just gonna get it off and finish farther, so who's the right? Okay, so let me talk about something because there's things happening. Let me borrow, we don't, right? So it's interesting. Bounce my shirt. When I'm moving her hand, when I'm moving her hand this way, like over my left shoulder, I'm also moving myself opposite. So we're passing each other like two ships passing in the night, right? Yeah. So it goes, yeah. And then when I make the loop with the wrist, what do? I go, so again, it's
Change the position.
Soke did this a lot. Soke did this a lot. So just do a punch in it, right? So Soke would come here, and he would have his finger, and then he would go. And so it just looked like an old guy doing stupid stuff, right? But what you didn't realize is, if you watch your structure, when his head was here, right? So she's aware of this position. As he leaned forward this way, if I don't do anything, she's still fine. But he would go. See how she just changed her position? Of course, it's a punch coming right? But this is part of the thing. So, or he would go like this, right? So if she changed angle like this, right? Yeah, they understand, I think. So again, he would be here, and then he would go like, and lean in. But also, this is happening. You see that? I'm exaggerating. This is way too far. So just a little bit like just that. So right now she's like, oh, his face is right there to punch. But she can't.
I can't because my weight is shifted here.
She's just wound up on here. Just look at it and you're like, see that right there? Just drops
I
down.
still can't see all the time. I can see clear target.
So even here, I'm going to pull her wrist back that way. It goes. So I step forward. So there's this feeling in her. It's that Kyojitsu. She can't read exactly what's happening. If I just stand there and I go, she gets it, right? Because I provided a stable position relative to everything else, so she can figure out what's going on. But because I'm moving it, so same thing. When this grab occurs, okay, I'm gonna exaggerate. I'm going this way. I'm not going that far, right? So it goes boom, then it comes here, and now same thing. I'm going to go with my body that way, while her arm goes back that way. So. That makes sense? So this also, something in front of her face is like, oh, and then I catch her shoulder. So right now, she doesn't even realize that, of course, in real life, I'm gonna, I'll be covering this or whatever, or stabbing her or something like that, whatever that, right? Then this just comes around. It's already in place. She says no. Does it make sense? So we're doing a lot of this happening. Right? So this could like, say she was punching, right? And we were doing boom, so she moves again to punch me, and say, boom. So she punches right now, and it goes. Boom. You see where that Budo came from? This kind of thing. So it's turning, and then you come because you're going this way while your arm's going back over that way. And she's like, oh, he's over there. She sees me over here, but my hand is back here going, nope. Does this make sense? So this is kind of the idea. I'm not saying you're going to do it like this in real life. I don't know, probably not. But trying to get this concept of this lie and truth and mixing them up so that they can't read what's happening. In fact, they're getting a fake read, a false read. Okay?
Could you do one more time, go there and leave the hand?
For Bushidori,
Yeah, like before you touch me.
you mean like just coming together like this?
And like that,
Mhm.
and look at this. It's from the home.
Of course, my hand. So we did this the other day, right?
Yeah.
So we talked about this kind of. This thing we're doing, right?
Momentary, we through that position, and through that position is important. That's why it was pictured there. But people thought it is not between. They misunderstand. It's start or the end.
You guys understand? When he comes to the anchor stationary position, but it's not just, it's a moment of up. That's a transfer position. Okay? Does that make sense? So let's just move on with this. Let's take the same Ohoko position. You can do the Mushiro if you want, but same thing. We come here, slide like this, coming out. Now we're going to do Ohoko. It's already really in Ohoko. So just now turn yourself. If you lock that shoulder right there, you just super dislocated. It's crazy.
Okay.
These mini knees. Again, right, this comes in here. So I'm left it on my shoulder. This is pretty terrible, right? So let's try that. Let's do origami from here. So get on the grass, right? So underneath was kind of pushing it this way for the origami. So if we did this, you see it's going to push the inward spiral for the origami. So again, you're kind of pushing the there's a bone in the bottom of the hand right here. Push that a bit away as you kind of come forward, and then move around. See it comes out right there. So see, I still haven't squeezed anything. See how my hand is still kind of half open,
Like a lynch.
right? And I'm pushing with the base of my hand up into it and keeping her shoulder pulled out in front of her hips. Does it make sense? And then, of course, you come here and lock it through the capital. Okay? So, see, it starts to occur. So just, I'm going to exaggerate the step. You don't really do a step. Okay, but without a step, you're just going to go like with your whole body. Okay, so try that origami, and then we'll lead that into the other two techniques connected with that. Okay, moving on with this. Now, just, you know, we made a joke, we talked about going to Sinotalon, which means going past the targeted joint or whatever you're going after and coming back into it. So if I'm going for Ohoko, I don't go like onto it, I go and hook in. So with this bird yaku, we're gonna go and take it to Musodori. So Musodori is the elbow joint bird yaku. This can be spiral. So if she's here, you guys have done this good. If you do this well, this is Oguri Sensei. He was the best at this. This concept called gachiten, which are these control points, these confluence points, where they come together. Like if you take the webbing of your hand, you do that. All the space is taken away between the webbing. Okay, versus like trying to grab on something and there's like little air pockets in there. We want to take out all the air. So when you do this, you're not just putting the thumb in place. That's one thing, but your trigger finger also wraps around and makes connection with like the bottom tendons of the back of the hand here, and it just fits into the place nicely, so that now you can control her sensations. But I'm not squeezing anything. The way he would do this a lot, say there's two bones here, the ulnar and radius, right? Rather than grabbing them like a pair of pliers, you do Lego hands like that, and it goes shink, and it just fits right in there. So you can start here and just goes shink. So this is why it's gachi. Gachi is just it's this. So Senna would talk about this too. The muscle is a little bit thicker here. It gets thinner right at the wrist, and then the hand gets bigger again, right? Well, at that junction of the smallest place is where it hooks on naturally. We want to learn to do this. This is why we're doing this slow. Because in a real fight, like she's like this, something like whoop, and it hooks on like that. See how it just hooks on? I'm not even grabbing, but it hooks on. Same like this. My wrist hooks on. See how it's hooking into that same place? And I turn, I catch into cool stuff like this. Whoop is hooking on. So they don't hook on because you're not going to see wrist or elbow and be like, got it. You're going to like slide into stuff. Okay, that's why we're going. And sliding in. So saying that, Origyaku Gamasher, here, move. I'm coming around like this. Now I've got to do Musodori. So this elbow is going to come down. I'm putting her wrist in the junction of my elbow here. My thumb is going to go up behind her elbow bone. So it's like that. Again, there's almost no space from her wrist contact all the way up to here. Not no space. So I've taken all the air out between our bodies right here. Then this goes. Musodori. Okay. And again, there's no space all along here where I have my arm. So I've taken all the air out of her arm and where the joint is. So right now, she feels the danger to her elbow, even though I'm not doing anything. If I just like take a knee right now, her arm comes off. So I will look at that. So, from here, you guys did this already. Move. I got my elbow. Now I'm going to bring this down so that when I come up, I'm controlling right behind his elbow bone. His wrist with his thumb pointed down is in the fold of my elbow. This is the thing. This is Musodori. This is taking out all the slack. Again, it's just, right? So notice I'm not here, I'm not using any muscular force. I've just taken out all the space he needs to escape. If I'm doing something like this, you guys see the air pocket there? He can bend that elbow and get out. If I try to do a lot of people do, which is like muscle here on the tricep, he can still get out of it. It's irritating, but he can still get out of it. But here, I'm locking this elbow in place and then creating the structure of my hands together with this. He's not bending this elbow. The only thing he can do if he bends is drive his shoulder into the ground, and then I just go with him and now try it one more time, right? And he's just going to face plant. You understand? So I'm not trying to over muscle him, force his elbow straight. I'm pulling it out straight. So one more time. It goes, pulling it out. See how I kind of get it down? See how it's almost here. Okay, let's try that. Origami, 2 Musodori. Change our big. Now almost the same exact thing, except Ganseki Nage. So Mushidori or Musodori and Ganseki Nage are essentially the same technique. It's basically, if you try to get someone to lock out their elbow, almost never will they want to lock out their elbow. They'll feel like an elbow bar coming on, and they'll try and bend to get out of it. And that becomes a Ganseki Nage. That's the easiest way to think about this, right? So same exact idea. You're right as she bends her arm, and now you're Ganseki Nage. This is not rocket science. It's way easier. Okay. Let me show you something that's kind of cool though. Is as you do this, as you come around, she bends her arm up because she feels it coming on right here, so she bends her arm. Is to take your elbow where her wrist is pocketed and bring your elbow towards the rib. See how it brings her wrist up behind her back and like a crank? And then from here, you can of course grab that wrist like that, or just keep turning into it here. And of course she's gonna go away. So. Does this make sense? So follow me. I can even let go of this plate right now because I'm gonna go down the center power, which means I'm gonna bring my hand back over to here. So even right now, if he's thinking about getting out, go ahead, I just stop. Then I'm gonna take my elbow and drop it in like that. See how it comes on right now? No one expects that because they feel the elbow crank, so they're expecting power coming out of the hand here like this. So instead you go, and it just goes whoop, and bends right up. Does that make sense? Okay, let's change partners again and try that. So as you guys are doing this, start having your uke resist you. Right? So follow me, Mario. I'm going to be the uke. So as he's doing this to me, okay, good. Okay. No, I didn't say you don't try to overpower me. Okay, because I'll kick your ass. Let's see that. So you want to beat me by being better at this thing, at this point. Okay. So do your next piece. So feel the tension you create in yourself. Okay. Don't do that. You're holding this up and you're pushing this down. Yeah. You're fighting yourself. So basically, you're doing this. You're going, oh, why won't he go? You're resisting me so hard. How many times I've heard that in the Bujinkan? Man, Rob is such a resistor. Why aren't you going down? Why aren't you going down?
What you guys can't tell is that the resistance is all coming out of the other hand.
Yeah.
Oh, you can tell.
It cracks me up. I mean, you got like 15 times doing this. They're like, oh, I'm like, I can't go anywhere. I'm just standing there. You are fighting yourself.
Okay. So I'm gonna let go of this hand.
Good. See, good. So right, now, see how you just turned out? If you got something like that, did, you just created all this space. Exactly. Right. So stay this way. Now go ahead and get my elbow. See, not with your elbow. Your hand is pushing the elbow. Right there. I'm going to get strong. Go ahead. No, see, you're trying to get in that same old stupid guts that you're not good, right? Face me. Face me. Now, as I resist this, change where your power comes into my arm. No, don't lift it up. Don't fight my power. So hang on. Relax. I know you're on camera under pressure. Right? So now.
No, I just have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, I want you. So close your eyes and feel. Okay. Put a little tension on. Okay, now I'm going to fight that tension. Okay. So where's my power right now? Pushing down my hand. Okay, so don't fight my elbow, pushing down your hand. Go where I don't have power. So I'm not sure why you're taking a step, okay, because I don't have power on the floor over there. The only other place that you can do something to me is where my wrist is. Okay. So I'm strong on my elbow going, ha ha ha. And you need to take my wrist and drop it to my waist. No, to my waist. Yeah, this. See what just happened to my whole body? Okay. Because I'm mushidoriing you right there. So let me mushidori you plus. Feel that? Now, I'm strong right here. You can't go anymore. So take your left hand and push my shoulder. No, don't move it. Just push it in the direction towards my shoulder. No, don't move your body. Just your finger. One finger pressure. Push my shoulder towards the floor. Towards the floor. So you have one problem that you did. Better position. Okay. Now, take your finger and push my shoulder towards the floor. Towards the floor. Where's the floor? Where's the floor? No, back to this way. That. There you go. So now, even though I'm like, all my power, what am I supposed to do? But you feel this, there's nothing that you have to do.
Yeah.
Understand? This is the exercise, this is the drill, is to feel, well, why we do this slowly, and we add this resistance, so you can feel where they make power. And then you go, okay, I'm not gonna fight that. You can fight that, right? Sometimes it is fun. But you move to the place where they're not making power, where they're, you can feel the shape they're trying to take. You let them take that shape, plus an extra 1 or 2%. And then they go, oh, it's more than I wanted. Right? And then they stop there and you find the other place where they can't resist your power and you go that way. Does this make sense?
This is the applied application of position.
Yeah, it's a skipping stone of Kyojitsu, right? But it all happens just like, whoop. So when I do this, it goes like, whoop, so look, this looks like a whole bunch of nothing, right? I didn't have to do it. It's just like where it goes. Right? And if any point he stopped me, it would just like adjust it somewhere else. So even though I just went, so it looks like gross motor movements, it looks like, as Seno Sensei said, you see A, B, C, D. But in between A and B is many little points. And in between B and C is many little points. So as they say, between point A and point B on a line, how many points can you make in between them? Infinite. So it doesn't matter how far apart they are, it's still infinite number of points. So this thing is, even though you see A, B, C, D, it's really a whole bunch of little micro adjustments occurring. How do you know how to do these micro adjustments? Yeah, you feel it. So the only way you're going to develop a sensitivity to feel it is through this training. You got to train. So although I keep we got to do fast stuff, we also got to do slow stuff, so that we can go like, these are the things. Once you got it slow, then what do you have to do? So speed up a little, start to speed it up a little bit, or a little bit more, and then start to integrate it back in. So like, oh, let me see how that work. So like, okay, so if you're punching, right? You punch me, like, check it out. Then I go, right? See how that works? It's like, oh, okay. Now can you really do it that way in a fight? Probably not. But this, we're starting to integrate it back in there, right? I went beginning in. You're probably not going to get that. Beginning, a bunch of stuff in the middle and the end. So any questions on this today?
Not yet.
Quick question. When we're doing this last part, to really play with this, it's worth doing what you and I just did. Where the other person's just like, nope,
Yes,
nope.
exactly.
Just keep, you got trial and error to find, because I would have never found that. You were trying to get the guy through it because nobody wanted to wait for me to find it, what was hidden. But there was no other way for me to do it, because everything I did was wrong until I found the right thing.
That's right. But I will tell you this. It requires just a high degree level of skill as an uke to do what I just did, as it does to put the technique on someone. To be able to do it to someone, you have to be able to be the uke. And most people aren't that skilled. They'll be like, I don't know, and they'll be just either reason them out of it, or they'll be like, I don't know, just hold in one position and not being able to help you guide through it. But even that's okay. Because you just be like, all right, I want you to pretend you're a statue. So you don't move. And even that well. Right? So we have like a series called the ground up, pull out. So if you stand here just like this, right? So he's statue man now. Don't move. So I'm like, how long do you guys think on this? Because you're like, nothing doesn't move. I'm gonna pretend I'm like a little paper man. Okay. So you're like, okay, you're like, it's not going down. So I got to figure out how to move around this, right? So anyway. Understand? But even though he's like, right. So there's these different ways of getting to this stuff. Again, no one's going to do that in fight, but you start to understand where we make tension like that represents maybe a moment in time where someone was like, bam, bam, and they came back in, and they're tight and power, and you hit that moment. You hit that one moment in time, and you're able to slip around that thing, and of course, then they start to move, but as they move, you're able to get it. Does that make sense? So in and of itself, it doesn't work, just like any of the other techniques you saw, they don't work that way. But if it leads to you be able to apply it at speed, then it's good. That makes sense? Any other questions? Anything you guys thought about?
So if you kind of point out a little bit, it's hurting, but that chest beat. It's so
Yeah. Okay, that's good. A microverting. Call it microverting. So, we did a module 2, we talked about hurting, we're like moving them through space that way. But microverting is also like, I'm gonna get his elbow joint to go over to this other little place the way I want to, and get his wrist to come to this other place. So that would be microverting. Check it out, it's an icon.
Check it out, it's an icon.
All right, good training, guys. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Let's take a picture.